Tonight, Tucker Carlson returned to Twitter with a new show. And in his show, he talked about what's going on in Ukraine with this dam that exploded. And who did it? Was it Ukraine? Was it Russia? Now, of course, Western media is saying Russia did it. Russia is saying Ukraine did it. And then there are elements of the media in the United States that are questioning who did it, saying we don't know for sure. I mean, a lot of the corporate press actually is saying both sides are accusing each other. But there are a lot of people online who are saying it makes more sense that it was Ukraine trying to do it, not Russia. But to be completely honest, it's fog of war. We don't know. In response to this, Tucker is getting a warm welcome from the corporate press who are ragging on him, calling him a conspiracy theorist. And I think generally they're just freaking out because the fact that he was able to take his show to Twitter and get a substantial amount of audience, of market share, shows they are completely irrelevant, and this is only making it worse for them. It was bad enough that we were competing directly, and we do compete directly with these cable networks, but now you can just do your show anywhere. Podcast, Twitter, VOD, on demand, whatever you want to do. We got other news we got to talk about. Actor Elliot Page. Yes, the horrifying Jussie Smollett 3.0 story where Elliot Page claims that in the gay neighborhood, West Hollywood of Los Angeles, that and telling the story on the same day that Elliot Page's book is coming out, claimed that a man walked up and verbatim said that they would gay bash Elliot Page, and this is why they need a gun. And Jussie Smollett is probably, rolling his eyes, being like, been there, done that, because nobody believes this story. So we're gonna get into that. And as well as a bunch of other stories. Cities are collapsing, and we got a variety of stories in this regard. The Hilton in San Francisco is surrendering its property. I believe the entire property to its creditors. It's just basically saying, you can have it. We're done. We're out, because SF has collapsed so much. And get this, in Seattle, people have been trying to steal fire trucks. That's how bad it's getting. So sounds like fun. We'll get into that stuff. Before we do, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and purchase coffee. Cast Brew Coffee is our coffee company. We're sponsoring ourselves because we want to build companies that compete with these woke, awful corporations. And there's a market opportunity there. You can choose to give your money to companies that hate you, or you can give your money to companies that support you, agree with your values, and want to do more. So when you buy Cast Brew Coffee, that money is going towards setting up our coffee shops and just generally expanding the company and helping us do more, so that we can create a parallel economy and compete with ESG and woke corporations. But don't forget to also go to timcast.com, click that Join Us button to become a member. As a member, you'll get access to uncensored members-only shows Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m., but they also are archived forever. You can go watch any of the old episodes, and if you sign up at the $25 per month level, or you're a member for at least 6 months, you can actually call into the show and talk to us and our guests. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Just Pearly Things.
Hello. Thank you.
Who are you?
My name is Pearl. I run the show Just Pearly Things on my channel, and I host live shows with women 3 times a week when I'm in London. And yeah, we usually debate on like random things. Right on.
Yeah, there's a story right now that we'll talk about in the New York Post that says there's a trend in podcasting to make fun of dumb women. And they're highlighting specifically the Whatever podcast.
Yeah. That's my favorite hobby.
Yeah. But I think we'll get into this. I just think it's wrong because Whatever podcast has a bunch of smart women on the show as well.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just let's go find dumb women and make fun of them. It's they bring on different kinds of women who disagree, and then people on the internet make fun of them.
Well, and it's also like when there's a show where men get roasted, there's no article saying, "Oh, we feel bad for the dumb men."
Yeah, right. There, where's the
No
articles?
one feels bad for dumb men. It's a problem for us.
No.
Yeah.
That's right, Seamus. It must be very hard.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
look, my life isn't easy. I'll say that. The fact that I've accomplished what I have, it's like remarkable.
So anyway,
it makes me more impressive, actually.
Thanks for hanging out, Pearl. It should be fun. We'll talk about a lot of stuff. I'm sure you'll have a lot of thoughts on the Ukraine war and Russia and foreign policy.
Oh, yeah. I know so much. I know so much.
And we got Seamus hanging out.
My name is Seamus Coughlin. I make cartoons for a living. And I make fun of people on the internet. It's quite fun. I've also made fun of the Whatever podcast. You guys might want to check that cartoon out. It was a lot of fun. Freedom Tunes, go over there, check it out. We just dropped a Debunkers video today. We're going to drop another cartoon Thursday. I also run a podcast called Shamer on Rumble. I had an incredible interview today with Jimmy Akin. He is just an encyclopedia, and we were talking about conspiracy theories. So I think you guys would really enjoy that if you want to check that out tonight.
I'm back.
And I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens that did not visit us.
We talked about that on our episode.
We're probably not going to talk about tonight, but just don't fall. They're trying to manipulate people. They're seeding terror. They're trying to see who's going to buy it. Who's going to buy the next big thing? Let's give them this one. Let's give them that alien thing.
Or aliens are real.
Or aliens are real, and they have visited Earth, and there are alien spacecraft on Earth as we speak.
We actually talked about that on the podcast I just did with Jimmy Akin. The dude, like I said, the guy's an encyclopedia.
Well,
we got
I'm feeling it, man. Shamer.
Shamer. Check it out.
On my right, we have Serge Duprea.
Yes, I am Serge.com, and I'm excited for today. It's good to have you back in, as always. Yeah, and good to meet you, Pearl. Pleasure. Be fun. Let's get started.
Let's jump into this, the first story. And this was the big news that's trending on Twitter right now. Tucker goes full conspiracy theorist on Twitter. I love this, the Daily Mail. They are not too happy with Tucker's position on the war in Ukraine because Daily Mail, of course, is super pro-Ukraine. But they say ex-Fox host debuts his new show and rants about the West's unwavering support for Ukraine, questions why UFO whistleblower is not dominating the news, and says Americans live in ignorance. Okay, so what was he wrong about? Yes, the West is just insanely obsessed with Ukraine, and there's tons of lies. I like how there's a meme going on right now because of this dam that got blown up. They were like, in 3 months, they're going to come back and be like, oh, yeah, we knew it the whole time, right? The Washington Post reported that apparently we knew about the attempts to sabotage the Nord Stream pipeline well in advance. And so now when it comes to blowing up this dam in Ukraine, they're claiming Russia did it. Surprise, surprise. It'll probably be in 3 months. They'll say, actually, it was Ukraine who did it. But anyway, look, I'm not trying to ignite that whole conversation. Deep foreign policy stuff we can get into in a second. The big story is just that Tucker Carlson has returned. He cannot be stopped. Episode 1, he just posted. It's got 148,000 likes. And the big picture here is the media is officially dead. The corporate media, it's over. Man, I longed for this day.
So he posted this at 6 p.m. I just want to, Tucker,
Yes.
if you could move, I'm streaming at 6 p.m. So I'd appreciate if you slid over a little bit.
Tucker Carlson.
Because we did okay today, but I think if he keeps this up, he might steal our audience. And
Tucker Carlson posted his first episode, the first episode of his show, on June 6th at 6 p.m.
Ooh. I mean,
Six.
I would love to conspiracy theorize with y'all, but I did do an episode today on June 6th at 6 p.m.
You did 666,
so I can't. I didn't mean to.
Really?
It wasn't on purpose.
Well, it never is.
But it happened. Yeah, maybe you're right.
The road to
it
hell
wasn't
is
my
paved with
first
good
episode.
intentions.
It wasn't my first episode, though.
I think people are going to need to evolve to start being able to listen to 2 conversations at once because there's too many shows at 6 o'clock. You just got to put 2 on it, maybe
Well, you
2
just-
and then 3 and then 4.
You just pick the
One
show
with
that
one
you
ear.
like, and you watch
Yeah.
the show that you like.
Dude, and if you guys all make videos here, you should put on videos of yourself to listen to yourself and then put on multiple videos of yourself at the same time. It's like heightened evolution.
That is the craziest
How
thing
many
I've ever
many
heard.
views does that have?
Oh, let's find out.
I am looking right now.
Let's
That's
so it's been up for
crazy.
2 hours, and it has 9 million.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It has more views on
Leftists want you
Twitter.
to know this,
He's
but
so popular.
he is popular,
getting-
and he should be.
My dad loves him. I don't actually know much about Tucker Carlson.
He used to be like deep state shill without realizing, like he was in the Matrix. He wore a bow tie and just did talking points for the military industrial complex. And then he had this interview with Jon Stewart where he was humiliated. Jon Stewart humiliated him, and he like went into some deep mental place, like, and then he came out like is this new creature of truth. And now he's like calling out the bull.
Why was he humiliated?
disagree, yeah.
I
don't think he was. I disagree with you on that. Has he said that's why he transformed?
No,
'Cause
this is just my
I
own
don't
take.
think Stewart humiliated him. I thought Stewart's performance was even a little embarrassing because Jon Stewart, he was calling Tucker Carlson out for things that he claimed were mistruths, and Tucker responded by saying, "Well, actually, you said this on your show, and that isn't true." And Jon Stewart goes, "It's a comedy show," as if Jon Stewart isn't trying to convince people of things because he's just a comedian. It was really, really slimy.
Duplicitous.
It was very duplicitous because you can't have it both ways. You can't say like, I do an educational comedy show that teaches people things, and then when someone calls you out for misinformation, say, it's a comedy show, who cares? But that's exactly what Jon Stewart was
It's just
doing.
a joke when I say a thing that happened is true, followed by a joke.
Exactly. Exactly.
What Jon Stewart and the rest of his ilk do is they'll say, here's a true thing that happened, and now joke. And it's like, then they claim the lie was the joke the whole time.
Exactly.
So they'll say like, Seamus was seen kicking dogs. Was the dog
Which,
Snoopy?
and that did happen, but there's a justification for it I don't want to get into right now.
Right, so the point is they'll say, Seamus kicked a dog, and then that's the fact. And then they go, and was the dog Snoopy? Like some ridiculous nonsense.
Yeah.
And then everyone laughs. And then later they'll be like, the whole thing was a joke. And you'll be like, Seamus never kicked a dog. And be like, no, we were joking.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so they'll talk about it like it's news plus jokes, and then when they get called out for saying something that wasn't true, they'll go, "Oh, no, but it's just a joke. What's the big deal?"
So I seem to remember Tucker. This is like 2003, 4, 5.
a while ago,
era.
yeah.
He was like just basically like the Warner Act is good, Barack Obama's bad, and all the Republicans are good, and the Democrats are bad. And that was like not. I was in the zone of like Obama's good, war is bad, but he was like, and. Something happened right around that Jon Stewart interview with them where he changed. Like he disappeared for a year, came out, and he lost the bow tie, and he got way more serious.
I miss the bow tie. I do miss the bow tie, but I remember that interview. And
The bow tie
I
was
think
so that-
you're right that Tucker Carlson was very much like a typical like kind of neocon broadcaster.
Well, that's what the bow tie was for, so that when you were looking at him and he was saying that we need to go blow up foreigners, you were like, but that bow tie.
That's a nice like.
It's just so funny.
It is a nice bow tie. He's like, I tied it myself.
The other thing idea is maybe he did a bunch of mushrooms one day.
I don't think. Why is that always it? Why can't someone just come to realize something true without doing a bunch of mushrooms?
Wouldn't it be great?
So that interview made him like change his opinions on the Iraq War.
I don't
and,
think
like,
it
other
did.
No,
stuff?
Ian's just crazy.
I'm just kind of throwing one out there. I don't know if it was that interview, but around that
Okay.
time of his life, he kind of had this
He
change of
switched.
momentum.
He switched all his opinions.
At
I don't know
some
about
point,
all
not
of
all
them,
of them, but like
but a lot.
he began to oppose the kind of neoconservative foreign policy perspective because he used to be very much in lockstep with the rest of the right wing at that time, which was saying, yes, our freedom is over in the Middle East. Let's go get it.
Osama bin Laden
Yeah.
bad. We were attacked 9/11, terrorists, 2 airplanes
I'm
brought
being
down.
snide. I'm being snide, right? But neoconservatism is intellectually bankrupt. It's just a form of Marxism.
I feel like they just co-opted the conservative movement, this neo-war movement. Now they've
I was
Trump kicked him out,
Democratic
though.
movement.
I was so young when all that stuff was going on. Like I don't even.
How old were you in 06?
I was 10.
No, yeah, we're like the same age.
Yeah.
About the same age. I remember those.
Did you
times.
watch that stuff when you were back then?
I watched it a little bit. Yeah, I used to, when we would drive anywhere, we didn't listen to music in the car. It was always talk radio, always talk radio. And so I heard a lot of it. And my dad is one of those guys where he listens to both sides. At that time, he definitely did. And so I heard, unfortunately, I heard my fair share of NPR as well. But yeah, a lot of like Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, the OGs.
Yeah, my dad used to listen to them too, but I didn't know what they were talking about. I was so confused.
I was like fired, like little 10-year-old
Yeah,
Seamus was fired.
yeah.
I was like, these politically correct liberals, they're destroying America.
I was like, Dad, turn the radio off.
The scary man is yelling.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, put on country.
I think part of Tucker's like what I love about him is that he used to be a neocon, used to be like in the Matrix, and now he's out of it. Like
Yeah.
I love the retribution story, the come from behind victory.
What do you mean in the Matrix? Because when we say that, like we talk about like dating and relationships. I'm curious what you guys in like the political world.
Well,
say.
you explained it first. Like, what is the dating matrix?
It's just kind of like men grow up thinking that like women want the guy that gives them flowers, treats them well, and they grow up and find out that's not true.
Right.
I mean,
And there's the red pill.
They get kind of mad at me because there's so many like people have so many different definitions of it, so they kind of argue over it. But that's like in layman's terms
About the Matrix.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the red pill, because a lot of people use that word for so many different things.
Yeah.
But so I'm curious in the political world what you guys mean.
like
by
the
that.
literal matrix.
Yeah, I thought
Like there's so the political red pill is there is a corporate narrative that the average person believes is reality. And if you are to quote unquote take the red pill, you wake up to the untruths that is the corporate press, the media, politics,
For
the
me,
establishment
it was
narrative.
9/11. Like I was fed. I thought, okay, a couple of planes hit the buildings, they knocked them down, and Osama bin Laden's the one that's responsible for all of this.
Okay.
And then I found out later, like, oh, there's a lot of evidence that there's more to it than just a couple of planes and this dude in the Middle East.
I think Saudi Arabia got sued over their involvement or something. What was that?
Are
I don't
you-
know. I don't want to get into it because I don't know enough about it. But there was like there's a lot more than
It is
just
a rabbit hole.
Are you guys like Bush did 9/11?
No, we don't all
No.
share the same opinion.
No, okay.
We're actually a pretty diverse
I
panel, to
don't.
be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence of who did it, but there's a
Okay.
lot more going on than what I thought. Like the way the buildings fell down in near free fall is like, dude.
So-
But instead of just getting into a whole 9/11 debate. How about we just talk
But it
about
shocked me how
what the red
political
pill
matrix.
is. Yeah,
Right.
I would say for me, like the political matrix, there's a couple different things, and I usually don't use terms like the red pill or the matrix for the reason that you described, which is that they're thrown around by so many people to represent so many different things. But I would say that in one sense, the matrix is sort of like all the social political ideas that are forced onto people that they're convinced of that are untrue. And I would say one of those, at least in the dating marketplace, is just, the sexual revolution, more generally speaking, this idea that people are happy when they have sex outside of marriage, that this is something that people should aspire to do, and that it's a healthy way for man to live, and that we're just a product of our own self-invention. And as long as a person is getting their sexual gratification, what they're doing is beyond reproach, basically.
That's Matrix.
Yeah, that's definitely Matrix.
That's like
I would say so. I don't usually use that language, but
that's how I was wondering.
But no, because but it's also
for
political because the sexual revolution is a massively political thing and has a strong political element to it, and all of our political establishments basically promote it.
It's a mix of it's a mix of the political and dating.
Yeah. Well, because the family is the building block of society, so any political movement has to. Well, Reagan played a role in the destruction of the American family with no-fault divorce. He didn't do it himself overnight, man. There was a lot at work there, but I think it was a massive misstep on his part. It was. It's hard to say with the final nails, but that was definitely very bad. Very bad.
No fault divorce ended marriage.
It formalized our ending of marriage. But there were other things, like there was a massive cultural shift that happened at this time. So previously, people thought of divorce as something that was horrible, but that we should allow in certain circumstances. And I'm not even saying that's the correct vision, because I just don't believe a marriage can actually end if it's an actual marriage. But that's not to say someone who's being abused can't go live somewhere else. But my main point is there was a reinvention that happened culturally or around the time of the 1970s, where people stopped viewing divorce as this unfortunate thing that happens sometimes and that we should allow a political outlet for. And they started reframing it as an adventure, a method of self-exploration, a way to reinvent yourself rather than like something horrific that we should prevent from ever occurring.
Well, I mean, some people say it's birth control. If you look up the divorce rate and like birth control, like the rate of women on birth control, it's really interesting. The charts are the same pretty much.
Whoa. Yeah, well, it all plays a role.
You could look it up and like put it on the screen. It's really interesting. It's like literally if you put them side by side, it's the same.
I know that
but I would
smell
say
different.
I would say like social media too, because I think because I mean you get like all these women that think they're hotter than they are because they have simps messaging them every single day.
Instagram filters.
Yeah, so I think like it would be silly to not include that in like the destruction of the family.
Can't these women still hook up with those simps that are messaging them?
What do you mean?
Like, what about the fact that guys are hitting on these women is different from reality?
Because it makes it a global sexual marketplace. So it's not, she doesn't just have access to the men like in her town, because before it's like the prettiest guy, prettiest girl in the town marry each other, whatever. Now it's like the men are competing with men from, Dubai, like celebrities. Like how many women has, a celebrity like Drake slept with?
We actually
future wives, you know what I mean?
We've talked a lot about this. Boy, does it trigger the feminists. I talked about how dating apps have basically caused a major collapse, because what happens is it used to be that if you were a dude, you had access, men and women had access to their school, basically, the institution where they spent all of their time. So a guy is 18, he goes to college, and he has access to the women in the college network, which is mostly the college he's at, and then maybe the friends of friends.
Yeah.
But when dating apps emerge, all of a sudden, all of these, 18 plus young women have access to 25-year-old plus men who aren't in college, but have cars, have jobs, have salaries. And now the 18-year-old in college has to compete with a guy who's already got a career and is already established, and they can't.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you pointed out birth control, because that plays a massive role in the way that we've been restructured in terms of our thinking about sexuality. So people used to recognize that the purpose of sex was unity and procreation, right? And you wanted to be with the person you were going to be with the rest of your life before you engage in that act with them, because it makes new people, and someone has to take responsibility for those new people. What artificial contraceptives made possible was a rerouting of our collective cultural thinking about sexuality, which took it from something that was to be revered, that was beautiful, that needed social restrictions, and something that was just about the pleasure of the individual, and that only needed to be considered within the context of pleasure without actually considering its actual broader purpose, which is the creation of families. And of course, families are the building block of society. So when you corrupt people's sexual morals, you end up destroying the entire society inevitably. I mean, if you don't end up setting that train back on the rail or putting things back in the proper course, it all falls apart. You just can't do it. And we recognize this economically. Whenever a marketplace is deregulated, we say, well, this is going to result in unbearable inequalities. All of the spoils will go to some small percentage of people who happen to have the traits that the market rewards. But then when it came to the sexual revolution, no one was willing to say that. Well, when it comes to the sexual marketplace, deregulating it is going to create unbearable inequalities. And in the end, people aren't going to be happy.
I get the feeling that if we made birth control illegal and made abortion illegal, it would cause devastation. Like it would cause a bunch of spousal abuse. Like a lot of the value of, I can't stand no fault divorce. I mean, it makes me, I lost faith in marriage, basically. I have no faith in that institution because she can leave whenever she wants. But if they're stuck, then won't they just be getting beat a lot?
So this is the whole point of no fault divorce is a person could get divorced if they demonstrated that there was some kind of abuse occurring, right? And this is part of what I was saying earlier. I believe marriage is lifelong, but that doesn't mean that you can't go live somewhere else if a person is abusing you, right?
And it doesn't mean you don't go you go to the police.
Well, and the one thing too, they've expanded the definition of abuse so much that we don't even know what abuse is anymore. Like it's not just like you can include like financial abuse, because I'm doing a divorce documentary, and so it's going into like basically men that get financially ruined by divorce. And the issue is like they literally like have expanded the definition so much to include things like financial abuse. So if I'm married and he says you can't spend $5,000 on my credit card, he's financially controlling me, and that's considered abuse in family court.
So it's very sad.
You need to give
in the US?
A percentage of your income?
UK, US is state by state.
Wow.
So like this is based in the UK.
Well, words are violence now, so
exactly.
Do you think there's faith in marriage? Do you have faith in marriage?
Well, I don't think marriage is marriage anymore. Like I think that marriage, it's a whole different institution. It's basically just long-term relationships nowadays.
Yeah, it's dating.
I think there's truth in that. Yeah,
because like if you can get out, like how is it marriage?
That's
like,
exactly.
I think the
marriage doesn't exist since no fault divorce.
I would argue that in the United States, our laws don't properly recognize marriage. Of course, I believe marriage still exists, but the way the culture understands it, you're not looking at actual marriages in a sense, because the person isn't truly saying for better or for worse till death do we part. They're saying, I'm just going to do this for a while until I get bored of it. Like if divorce is in your mind as an option, it's something you're willing to consider, and you're not saying there is no one else for me for the rest of my life or this person's life, then are you really getting married?
There's in the service industry, I used to work as a waiter for like a decade. And when we would finish a shift, I'd marry the condiments. He'd be like, okay, take the ketchups and marry them together, which means mix. I'd pour one into the other, shake it up. You could never undo that. That mix is permanent now.
One flesh. The two became one flesh.
And what does a guy get out of marriage that he doesn't get out of a long-term girlfriend if she can leave?
Half her money?
Yeah, I think the
Hey, what do you mean half her money?
I guess in the instance of like, wasn't the story with Russell Brand that when he got divorced from Katy Perry, he didn't take anything from her because they're both super rich and he didn't care?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but women get money the majority of the time, so it's not like men get money out of it.
Yeah, she has more.
Like I think women only get spousal support like 10% of the time. When it comes to child custody, women get the kids 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's really an unfair system. Go ahead.
Totally agreed. And so your question has two different answers, right? When you ask, what do men get out of marriage? Because in some sense, like, yes, when you're talking about our society, when you're talking about what we are calling marriage, I mean, because the institution has removed. If we're talking about what marriage actually is, it's a different question, right? I mean, because it's not moral to have sex with someone you're not married. So you shouldn't be having sex with someone you're not married to. In a culture where people are having sex outside of marriage, where they're living together when they're not married, you're correct that it doesn't seem from like a material perspective that anything is really added to the relationship by entering into a legal union with each other.
Well, even when you look at like, purity and youth, like men don't even get that anymore out of marriage. Like in the UK, the average age of first marriage for a girl is 31. And when like purity, like what % of women do you think were virgins in 1920?
many more than today.
100
unmarried
I don't know if it was 100, but it was there's been surveys done and many more women.
I mean, you don't know, like
virgins.
people can lie,
Yeah.
but it was like 85% of women did not like, they said they're virgins on their wedding day. Like, what is that today?
So
then
what does a guy get
20,
from marriage
Yeah,
today?
so he doesn't get purity, he doesn't get youth. Now she has the power to take, I mean,
But that's that is more of a traditionalist argument that I don't think matters materialistically or what I'm saying is there are certainly people who care about purity and all that stuff. I don't think the average person thinks like, is my wife pure? But a lot of guys probably do.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you go to a guy and say, hey, you know that long-term relationship you're in? Yes. Why don't you get married? Okay. Why? Well, if you do, you open up the door to losing half of everything you own if things go bad and nothing else changes.
But
this-
And what does the woman get?
Yeah.
The woman gets half your stuff if she decides to leave at any point.
Well, but this is also the point, right? The left, the Marxists, they hate marriage and they hate the family. So people look at how the culture has been oriented and they look at these no-fault divorce laws and they say, oh my goodness, there's no point in even getting married anymore. Well, that was by design. Like the entire purpose was to dissuade people from wanting to get married. That was the long game.
And make it so sex before marriage is okay.
Exactly, right? Because if sex before marriage is on the table, then you can have that without committing to a person. I mean, what are most men going to choose even if you don't have these wacky divorce laws?
Well, all the divorce and marriage stuff aside, I find it weird to say that sex before marriage is bad. Because like if you have sex with a girl and you don't like it, but you don't know that until after you're married, that'd be horrible.
Well, sex isn't tryouts, right? And she's a person, and you're a person, and that's an act that creates human people, and it'll create a person even if you didn't think the sex was all that great. I think that two people who are married should try to communicate with one another so that they could, meet each other's needs in a licit way. And I think we've created so many problems with no-fault divorce and the sexual revolution and sex outside of marriage to say that, a solution to that problem isn't good enough because it might interfere with some people's ability to have sexual pleasure doesn't really convince me.
And it's not even about like moral, like good or bad. It's like what outcomes does this have? And like the studies show that the best outcomes are for two people that are both virgins. But
The best outcomes of marriage?
yeah, like
That's
the
true.
longest marriage
And marriage
Yeah.
satisfaction.
Yeah,
Because
Yes.
how would you know if the sex was bad if you didn't have sex with anyone else?
Exactly.
But
Watch a bunch
that's
of porn.
the same exact argument feminists make. They're like, wow, that must suck condemning your life to bad sex because you live this puritanical way.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah, but again, that's a horrible way of viewing sex. It's a horrible way of
Ignorance
viewing
is
other
bliss.
people. And it's not just that ignorance is bliss, it's that there are some things you have no need to know. Right? Like it doesn't, there is some information that's not going to make you happier. There are a lot of things that all of us could know that we don't want to know because it would make us miserable.
Yeah, but
Like,
a 5-minute orgasm would be awesome. Like if you could have nonstop orgasms with your wife, like it's just, you could do like 2 hours of tantric sex.
do you think with sex outside of marriage that's happening for people? Because the studies show that people rate lower marital satisfaction rates when they've had more sexual partners prior to marriage.
Have you ever watched any romantic comedy?
Yeah.
Like the trope is that the women are always unsatisfied. Like the guys are in it for a one-night stand. It's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and they leave.
Well, and also, since we're already having an adult conversation here, they have done studies with RAMs, right? So this is something that I learned when I was looking into the effects that pornography has on the brain and how men will seek out novelty. And they found with these muse that they were studying that men finished more quickly with a newer partner.
Yeah,
okay.
because of the excitement.
So exactly. So I don't think I have to elaborate any further on the implications of that.
It's not just that. I think that if you have two people who care about each other, it's likely going to be better between them than a guy who's like, can I get this woman in the closet for a few minutes and then
Yeah,
leave?
there is. I think there's a problem of chasing the orgasm. I think my mom would be like, your dad he's obsessed with sex. Oh my God, he just loves that. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe I gotta not do that then. But like on the other side, it is pretty epic. Like a good orgasm is like what I don't think anything else in the world can compete with that. Maybe not a good meal. I mean, maybe a good meal if you're hungry.
I'm sure everybody in the comment is going to say
Base. They're saying base.
They're going to say seeing the face of your child for the first time.
Oh yeah, good point. Raising
They're like,
kids.
Ian doesn't have kids. And
I was
doesn't
actually
understand.
thinking that today. Raising kids is far superior. Like having a family as far as just being with people.
And you're better off in a committed relationship with someone who won't just up and leave and take everything and your kids from you. And that's the other thing too with no-fault divorce. You have no guarantee you get to keep your kids. There's just like the family has been completely destroyed and there is a tremendous risk in having kids because they could just take your kids from you and then destroy your life.
What is
There's only 11 states that have automatic 50-50 custody out of 50. So it's like, if it's 50% is DNA, why doesn't he get 50% custody off the bat?
Well, there was a story out of Wisconsin where a guy who wasn't even the father, the woman claimed he was, and then the courts ordered him to pay child support because she listed him as the father, and the DNA proved he wasn't. They were like, we don't care. Kid needs a dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think, Pearl? What do you think is like a solution to this no-fault divorce situation?
Oh, I think we should ban divorce. I think we should ban it completely.
Except for
Completely. Like,
abuse?
what if a guy's beating his wife?
If he's beating his wife, I think there's an exception to every rule, but I don't think that makes the rule. But you know what else?
That's what it used to be.
Do you know what else they don't talk about? When they look at one-sided abuse, women hit men more than men hit women.
True.
Yeah.
So it's the women that are beating their husbands more than the husbands are beating their wife when it's one-sided, because the majority of abuse cases is mutual. And the other thing they don't talk about, and I'm so tired of this on the show, these girls will come on and say, I was abused. And I used to just believe women, right? Because it's like, and it's kind of a sensitive, it's kind of awkward in the room when someone's like, oh, I was abused. But it's like, if you're bringing it up on the show, I'm going to ask you questions, right? You clearly you talked about it. So, and then I would ask questions, and I'd realize these girls were not talking about the part they had to play in the abuse. I'll give you an example. One girl, she says I was abused. So I say, okay, what happened? How, because I'm thinking, like, the average guy can beat me the hell, I'd be dead. Like I deadlift 300 pounds. I'm a semi-pro athlete. I had pro contracts in the fall. I'm 6 foot. Like I'm pretty built for a chick, right? And I'm still saying the average guy can beat me up. So I'm like, okay, if he was beating you like that, like where are your injuries, right? So I ask her, what happened? She says, well, he pushed me. Like he pushed me down the stairs or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, why? Like what led up to this? And come to find out, this girl wouldn't leave. So she refused. She was trespassing on this guy's house, wouldn't leave, and then he pushes her out of the house. That's abuse. That's abuse.
Is that actually with what he did? Was that legal?
To push her out of the house?
Oh yeah, did he push her down the stairs though? Because that's different from like trying to remove someone from your property.
That's what she was trying to do.
Okay.
That's what he was
Well,
like.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, don't push people downstairs.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant to. Like the way she was saying is like she wouldn't leave. So what are you supposed to do if she? Now you could call the cops, but I'm saying like, it wasn't this like
You gotta call the police.
Yeah,
because
you have to protect yourself. But my point is, she didn't talk about. Like my point isn't like was it abuse, wasn't it abuse. My point is, women don't talk about the part they have to play in it.
Yeah.
So like
you know what I'd do? I would just go in my room, lock the door, call the police, and say I got a break-in. That's it. I mean,
yeah.
But it is like
Right.
a person who enters your property without your permission, and I'd say there's an ongoing burglary. I've locked myself in my room. You guys come deal with it. Because what'll happen is, if you try to physically remove her and the cops show up, she'll say, help, I'm being abused,
Right.
and you will get arrested.
Right.
So just go in your room, lock the door. I'm not saying run and cower. I'm saying just separate yourself from this person and then call the police and be like, please
Right.
come, burglary in progress. Then they'll come in and find the lady screaming and ranting, and you'll be like, I am in the other room. Door's locked, man.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, like, as I was saying before, what they did, and this is more pertaining to the UK, not the US, but I know some states have similar laws to this. They've basically expanded the definition of abuse to include things like coercive control, financial abuse. And they have like a list of like 5 to I think 10, and it's a point system. So basically what happens is if you like maybe 2 times he said you were financially abused, 3 times you were coercively controlled. Like they even say they were raped like early on in the relationship or something like that, even though they would like stay for later. And if you get like, I don't know, maybe it's 7 points out of 10, like then that's like considered abusive.
We have grapes growing on the property. This is crazy. No joke. You got to check them out. Like actual grapevines with, and you can see the grapes coming in.
Careful, but if you eat the skin before washing it off, there's a lot of like tannin on it.
Apparently you got to freeze them or something. They're called frost grapes. I don't know anything about it.
I had a similar situation.
But she said grape, so I was
Yeah,
like,
well, I didn't know if you could say that on the show.
You can say grape on YouTube.
Well, I don't know, but so like when it comes to abuse, like if it's a genuinely abusive situation, sure, like we divorce, fine, but like I think it's more of the exception than the rule, because even people that work at abuse like centers will tell you the majority of abuse cases, they're both abusing each other, so it's not just one-sided. So at that point, it's just like a toxic relationship. Maybe they should like take some time apart. And like
I want to come back to a lot of the subject, because we do have another story to talk about. We have a lot of stories to talk about, and then we'll come back to the dating stuff. But speaking of believing women, we have this story. Elliot Page reveals chilling transphobic attack outside LA hotel. Quote, I'm going to effing gay bash you, and then homophobic slur. And then the guy apparently in the most prominent gay neighborhood, probably in the country, of which is West Hollywood in Los Angeles. Well, maybe San Francisco got more prominent.
Yeah, Castro District, San Fran.
Yeah, but LA, West Hollywood is one of the most prominent gay neighborhoods in the country. This is where Elliot Page was. And then after this person said this, followed Elliot Page into a store called Pink Dot and then said, "This is why I need a gun." And it's amazing. I can't believe it. This story coming out on the same day that Elliot Page has released their new book. So nobody believes the story. I mean, come on. So a guy was walking around Los Angeles in literally the boys' town of Los Angeles and was shocked and outraged to see someone who he assumed was gay. And
Also,
then specifically said gay bash. And then, "This is why I need a gun." Like,
Bad fan fiction.
It's bad fan fiction for liberals. Guns are bad. See, that's why they want guns.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
Elliot Page?
Yeah.
Formerly Ellen Page?
Have you ever seen Juno?
Yeah.
That was the girl from Juno. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she transitioned to
Oh, that's so sad.
Elliot about I feel,
And then there's a big question about whether or not Elliot Page has fake implants for the
Yeah, that's gotta be fake.
because a lot of people were saying, like, if you look at Elliot Page's arms,
It doesn't.
when you work out your core for abs, there's whenever you work out a muscle, there's like a 30% transference to the surrounding muscles because all muscles are working. It's not just like when you're like working out your arms, you're actually using a bunch of other muscles too. So you would have muscle development in other areas. So a lot of people were like, Elliot Page got implants to look like a dude with abs or whatever. I just think this person's a liar.
well, this story.
I think they're suffering from severe depression. I think that was publicly known. And I think that results in desperate cries for attention, like the most ridiculous story you've ever heard. I'm sorry. I don't know what's more ridiculous, Jussie Smollett or this. To be fair, it is possible this happened. The Jussie Smollett thing is kind of like, yo, get out of here.
It's
Like,
even worse. Yeah.
Chicago, 2 a.m., sub-zero weather, two guys carrying bleach and a string from a hardware store. This is, maybe there was a crazy homeless guy muttering and sputtering and rambling and then saw,
But he
Elliot
did
Page
not
and-
use that for an actor. He did not say, "I am going to gay bash you." Like that's not how people talk.
That's not a thing anybody's like.
No.
If Elliot Page claimed the guy said, "Oh, you disgust me, I'm gonna get you," or something, I'd be like, okay, that makes more sense.
This kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about, how we only get potentially half the story. What led up to this interaction? Was Elliot screaming at the guy? Because if she's a miserable, depressed person, I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him to wail on someone verbally.
Okay, maybe there was a unicorn that was flying through the sky and it pooped, and the poop landed on this gigantic behemoth of an angry man who then turned and saw Elliot Page picking flowers for Elliot's mother and then went, "Oh boy, I'm so angry." Because,
It was Dash Dabrowski all over.
because if we're just going to make things up, I'll make up whatever I want. If she's going to make something up, I'll just make up how it started. There you go. There's the story.
What do you think, Pearl?
Well, I have a question. I don't know if I can say this or not.
Oh,
So I don't.
write it on a piece of paper, pass it over to Tim, and then we'll
Should
let you know.
I
I don't know. Do we even have paper? You can write it
I
up.
got paper, yeah.
I could. Okay. Wait.
Don't brag,
I
Ian.
just have a question, but I don't know if
question?
this question will. Okay.
Oh, she's writing a
If
racial
it's too
slur.
hot for TV.
I don't know.
I
'cause
can't
you said
believe you.
that
Oh my
subject's like-
gosh! Look what.
Wait. You said this. Wait.
Seamus is sweating.
I'm like, this is.
It's a close up on
write
Seamus's
that.
I have a
eyeballs.
feeling it's going to be a very innocuous question.
I don't think it's that bad, but I just don't want to. It's your guys' show, so
Well,
I don't want to.
What I basically said was,
Oh, so
Can I say that?
I will check with Tim, but I'm pretty sure yes.
Okay.
I'll just ask him. Because this is one of these things.
For those that are wondering what we're talking about, basically what we tell people is,
I don't know if you can, but it's true. I don't know if you can say that, but it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can say it.
you're not on YouTube. You do not insult someone based on their immutable characteristics.
Okay.
Outside of that, you're fine.
What about questioning their mental stability? Is that? Can I-
I'm pretty sure that Elliot Page has publicly expressed they have mental illness.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
why are we taking like the word seriously of someone that's mentally ill? Like, why are they getting articles and stuff?
I think Elliot Page has specifically talked about severe depression and anxiety and disorders and things like that. I could be wrong. But
But I was more
it's-
asking because of the other stuff.
but it's not about being mentally ill. It's about
Right.
selling a book.
right.
Like, this story comes out the same day the book is getting
Same
released.
day,
This is
wow.
not this is not mental illness. This
Yeah.
is cold calculating marketing.
Wow.
I think it's just crazy.
It's marketing. Why did Jussie Smollett do what Jussie Smollett did?
Because he was renegotiating his contract on Empire, and he wanted to be a hot ticket item.
And why now is this story come out? June 6th is the release date for Page Boy, the new book.
What a weird marketing strategy, right? The new
Help, I'm a
fake
victim.
hate crime marketing firm out there that's telling these people that this will help their public image. But it makes sense, right? Because we live in a victimhood culture, and if you want people to sympathize with you, you have to be a victim because that's what makes you impressive.
Yeah, I'm real fed up on the victimhood culture. It's getting under my skin.
Just now?
I could hear
Agreed.
a pin drop all of a sudden.
No. I totally agree. I just wanted to.
Do you get that? Do you constantly interact with victims on your show?
Oh my gosh. I just think women nowadays just want to be victim. It's like everything. Like I've never heard a girl come on a show because we talk about relationships a lot and just say, you know what? That relationship was my fault. Yeah, I've never heard a girl say that.
Oh, there was a story today I was reading in the Daily Mail. And it was a woman crying because her fiance left her and said it was my fault because I wouldn't listen to why he was upset and I was too stubborn to compromise and now he's gone.
Yeah, and it made news headlines.
It made
They're like, women says something. Like if you ask a guy, like he had a nice girl, he maybe cheated on her, he'll kind of admit it. He'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I was a dog. I was this. But it's like girls just find the craziest ways to make themselves the victim in every relationship.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
In every gosh. And I used to not really understand like why guys were complaining about dating so much. I was like, why are the guys complaining? Like why are they saying this is so bad? And then I started doing the show and I was like, oh my gosh, it's worse than I thought. It's like the girls are so flaky coming on the show. I've never been really flaked on by guys. Women, it's like 50. I literally have to book it 50-50 if they'll
I've never
show up.
been flaked
I
on.
book double the amount of women because I know half will cancel.
Are they professionals?
Are they? No, it's
Are
just
you
that-
being hyperbolic or is it really half?
I mean, I haven't recruited in a while, but when I did the recruiting myself, we book 10 girls for the show. We give our recruiters 10 slots. And so like that's like the most mics we have. We expect like half to come.
For one show, you'll have 10 invites?
Yeah, 10 invites. I mean, sometimes we add in guys too. So like they're guys. It depends on the show, but yeah.
That's wild. So half the time they just don't show up. Do you think though, is it something about like your show being more controversial that it makes them feel more frightened to do it?
No, this was even before I was big. Like this was I started at 15. I was at 15,000 subs a year ago. So
What happened? What sparked
You
it?
really blew up. You really blew up.
well, people think it was the show, but it actually wasn't the show. Well, sort of. I would do a show, right? And we would talk about like, I don't know, maybe the pay gap not being real or like not the way they think, right? Like basic, like kind of red pill truths, right? And I would see a girl where like the wheels were sort of turning, where she was kind of understanding what I was saying when I would say like, you know, the reason for the pay gap is because we don't work as many hours, we don't do as dangerous job, like, you know, et cetera.
We flake on podcasts, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I would do is I would invite the girls back and I would show them like a red pilling like video. So one of the first videos that went viral was I red pilled my friend for the first time. And it was like a 45-minute video of Jordan Peterson arguing with that feminist on the pay gap, right? And so, but these would be like 3-hour conversations, really in depth, like just like where I'm like slowly sort of like deconstructing what they believe. And you know, because at one point, like, I mean, I thought the pay gap was real. Like, I mean, not anytime recently, but you know, you're when you're younger, right? And so that's what initially blew it up, was like it would be like red pilling women in real time.
I found it.
That's-
I found it.
But
The story is real.
But also, dunking on women does well too.
Woman left by her fiance burst into tears as she confesses the one mistake she made. And she basically says that they would get into fights.
My
and
one
then-
mistake is
Here,
I
look.
was too good for
The
him.
failure to address the problems caused them to escalate, and ultimately neither was willing to make sacrifices or compromise on their stance. After the relationship ended, Cam realized that she should have been less stubborn and tried to appreciate her partner's viewpoint. And now she's alone.
Dang.
And it made news headlines.
Why? I mean, I guess that's a big deal for modern
Breaking
women.
news, like woman admits fault.
Yeah, it's a sad story. It happens. I think that part of what this culture does is it creates this warfare between men and women. And of course, the man is always the bad guy. Everything's his fault. And you see this repeatedly in media. I mean, even from singers, even from male singers, you hear so many songs that men sing about how they messed up and they did something wrong. I can't think of a single pop song written by a woman about how like she wasn't good enough for the guy she was with. You get a lot of songs like that written by male pop stars.
Trying to think of one.
Yeah. Now, and you see this trope in film and television all the time. It's always the guy begging the girl to come back to him because he messed up, holding the stereo.
Right,
Oh yeah, John Cusack.
In his trench coat while it rains. Baby, come back. And yeah, it's never the opposite. It's never the opposite.
Well, movies typically follow two tropes. One, it's the guy saving the girl, or two, it's the guy apologizing to the girl.
No, but here, you forgot the third one. The one that got away for women. Women love that shit.
Yeah, they
want to
be the one
Titanic. This woman's like 90. She had a whole family with another dude.
I know.
And
She's
still,
evil.
And she's still talking about her ex-lover she met for like a
Lover.
week or whatever.
Her one night stand.
No, this is a homeless guy.
I think it was 2 nights.
It was no, but this is very real, right? That Titanic is an unbelievably evil film, but there's something masterful about the way that the cinematography, the framing, and the music is used to make you sympathize with someone who's a genuinely bad person. Like, she doesn't have a character arc. She doesn't go from a bad person to a good person. She goes from like a selfish person to a
worse
person who's
person.
like a selfish person, but who's selfish in a different way. And when you look, I just want to mention one thing. What she does, I saw this movie years ago, so take this with a grain of salt. But what I remember is she cheats on her fiance and then has the homeless guy she's cheating on him with draw a picture of her naked wearing her engagement gift.
Yeah.
And then she puts it in his safe with like a snide remark right now. Like, that's psychopath behavior. That is not what a normal person does. That is insane. And people watch this and they're like, wow, her story's inspiring.
she's
Like,
on
she's a demon.
Wasn't she like talking to her granddaughter or something?
She was on
Yeah.
the boat. And then, no. She
at
was
the end.
talking to treasure hunters who were looking for the diamond she had, which she throws off the boat. She's on a boat that costs millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands to rent. And they're asking her to tell this boring old lady story she only tells because they think she has a diamond. And she has it, and she throws it off the ship. She doesn't give it to the people who listen to her for hours. She doesn't sell it to take care of her granddaughter who spent her life caring for her and doesn't have a family of her own. She throws it off the ship because Jack needed it.
Hey.
He's dead. He died. He's at the bottom of the ocean.
And you know what's crazy?
You're an
You know
animal.
what's crazy? She was on the boat. She was on the safety boat, right? And she jumps off the safety boat back into the real boat. Jack would be alive if she just stayed in the original safety boat. That saves her later.
Exactly.
Yes, there would have been room on, and there was room on the door.
Dude,
You know,
they don't tell
they've
you this
proven
part of the
that now.
story, but I bet you Jack, when he saw she's still on the boat, was like, yeah, no, I can save both of us. I can save, but yes, fine. Just come.
But I think they've proven now that who's the guy who did the movie? What's his name?
James Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron. He did a thing where they got the two people to sit on the door and it worked, and they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a
that
was a weird.
You know what? Other movies like this too. The Notebook. I remember being a kid watching this movie and thinking like, she's cheating. She's cheating. Why is this okay?
Yeah.
And they romanticize cheating. But you know what I think it is? I think it's like
What's that one about? I don't know.
Oh, The Notebook. Basically, it's like, again, the one that got away, which is also a Katy Perry song, right? But basically, she dates this guy in high school and they're in love or whatever. And then they break up. I don't remember why, but she goes on to meet this really nice guy that like treated her well, all this stuff similar, to the Titanic, but she just couldn't get the old guy out of her head. And then she goes and cheats on him for like 3 days. And then he like runs in the rain and is like, I love you. And then she leaves her fiance for this guy she dated in high school.
She's an alpha widow, bro. I actually never saw it, but I had a podcast guest who was explaining the plot of it to me. I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
It's like a horrible story.
Well,
with horrible morals.
the alpha widow is like, it's really common in music and movies.
Can we do like a sequel to every Hallmark movie ever, where it's like, so the woman who's got a fiance and he's like a snooty businessman, and then she goes back home to see her parents, and then there's the nerdy guy who's all grown up and suave, and he's like a carpenter now, and he's ripped, and then he's very nice to her, and she realized he was the one all along. Can we just have like a part 2 where it's like they had a one night stand and he was like, yo, I'm done. Like, I got things to do. I haven't
Yes.
seen you in 20 years. Later.
Produce it. I'll act.
Well, no, this has
Like,
to
wait,
be
what do you
done.
mean you're leaving me?
All right, every human being has a tendency to wonder, is the grass greener on the other side? And what Hollywood has done is built an entire sub-industry of telling women, yes, it is, actually. Go to the other side. Go check it out. No, it's going to be great. You're going to love your time over there. And then you end up divorced with a broken family or with a person who actually doesn't treat you very well. And this isn't addressed, and we just keep churning out media that's horribly irresponsible.
It should just be like, the day after she gets the hometown hero guy and she leaves her snooty businessman fiance, he like wakes up and he's like, I think you should probably go. And she's like, what do you mean? I thought we were having something. He's like, no, I was just saying that so that you'd sleep with me. You can leave now.
But why would Hollywood producers want women to think the hardworking man who's loyal to them is bad for trying to stop weird strangers from sleeping with her? Why would Hollywood producers want women to have that in their head?
You keep saying Hollywood, but it's Hallmark.
Hollywood, Hallmark, all of it, though.
I think Hallmark's made in Canada.
Hallmark is like way over the line, but all of these Hollywood movies follow similar tropes. Like the man who meets all of society's standards for what a responsible man isn't good enough. We either depict him as being like, bad in some emotional way. There's always a catch. The good, hardworking man always has problems. And like the lovable loser always has a heart of gold and genuinely cares for you. It's like, sorry, no.
Well, and the other thing is like whenever they always try to like explain women's cheating. So like whenever you say, oh, she cheated, they always say, well, why did he cheat? What did he do? It's the same thing if she freaks out and is like hitting a guy. It's always like, what did he do? What did he do to deserve this? Like the default is he deserved this in some way. Where it's like if a man cheats, he's a dog, he's evil, he's just, whatever.
Yeah, but like here's the thing. Like now we're seeing all of these polyamorous relationships.
Gross.
Because cheating kind of only really applies to marriage. And what we've created now is this pseudo hybrid dating marriage thing. So here's how it used to be. It was a young woman would date several men. What does that really mean? It means they'd go out for a cheeseburger and a milkshake. And then if they were like, hey, we're really getting along and we have a lot in common, this is fun, they would decide to get married. Now dating is first you meet at a bar and then you bang at her place or his place. Then they decide, hey, maybe we should do this more often. So you've already like jumped the line into like living together and hooking up, but there's no actual commitment. So it's all just a mishmash.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is cheating? Well, cheating was like you were married. Marriage is a contract. The reason it's called cheat is because you have a commitment you are breaking. If you're just like randomly dating some floozy or something, like how is it cheating if you don't have anything formally set anyway and you could leave at any time?
Well, I would add one thing. I would say like if you are dating someone monogamously to discern marriage and they can't be monogamous through the courtship process, that does tell you something about them. It's like, all right, yeah, you're not the one for me.
Yeah, but I mean, from your standard, Seamus, they're like the person you're dating is not going around having sex with a bunch of dudes.
No,
anyway.
It's also true. Yes.
So there's not.
Or at least if she does, I don't know about it.
But what are you saying? Like, if you're
I would
going
never
out,
date a woman like that.
So dating a woman is like you're going out for dinner and you're going to the movies, and then one day you find out she went out to a movie with Ian.
And I would be like, first of all, that would never happen. All right, they're going to see What Is a Woman, and I'm like, apparently a liar and a cheater.
So would you?
I could tell Matt Walsh what a woman is.
If you were in a relationship with, or if you just met a girl that just rocked you, knocked you on your ass, awesome, but then you found out she did it with 100 other guys, would you still be like, whatever, I'm going for it?
That's a good question. So statistically speaking, we know that the more sexual partners a person has, the higher the probability that they will end up being divorced. So I would say there's kind of an imprudence in not considering a person's history. 100 is a very big number. I think like someone can make mistakes, genuinely repent, and then do the hard work to try to do the penance and fasting and prayer to straighten themselves out and become like a good, holy person who would be a worthy mother to one's children. But I mean, after 100, I think that's going to be pretty difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying that it's not something that shouldn't be considered. And I think there are a lot of people who want to argue that that shouldn't be considered, and it should.
Yeah, it's like, do you decide with your brain or with your heart?
The thing you have to think about, and this isn't me speaking as a married man because I'm not married, but I was recently speaking to Jason Evert, who is and talks about these things, and I asked him a similar question.
Is it Jason? Is it Everett?
I think it's Everett, yeah.
Oh my God, he went to my high school.
Really?
He talked at your high school?
Yeah, he did. He did. He's selling women dreams. That man. Yeah,
well, I like him, but we can get into it.
I do like him, but it's always the same trope with like the religious people. It's always like the ran through chick and like the guy that was a virgin that like marries her at the end, and she only really gets away with it typically because she's hot. So, which it's kind of
I think that's a fair representation of his position.
I mean, mean, that's what happened. Like, he's a nice guy, but like,
that's what you're saying. Well, no, I think that's a horrible thing to say about him and his wife.
Well, no, I'm saying like that's what he said. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to make it a personal thing, but wait, can I finish?
Yeah, of course.
Basically, like, that's what, like, the wife goes up first and she talks about how she was like slept with all these people, and then the guy goes up and talks about how he didn't, and then the girl like gets married at the end. And yeah, it's always the same thing. Like, so the girl basically gets ran through and then the guy marries her after. And I'm like, it's kind of selling dreams. And like, an attractive girl can get away with it, but like the average chick, it's like.
But I think there's an important contextual difference, which is that Jason and his wife aren't saying like, go do this and it'll be fine. What they're saying was like, this was a horribly damaging thing to do. She wished she had never done it. And she repented and got close to Christ and like did the work to undo her scars.
No, and if it's genuine, sure. But I just think like the issue, like why I think a lot of times church like attracts women that like that are a bit like, I mean, come on, like, let's just be honest. Like, there's a reason there's Catholic girls have a reputation. There's a reason church girls have a reputation.
Well, I think because most people who are supposedly raised in the faith aren't. They're told they're Catholic and they don't go to church. They don't.
Well, I think it's too, because like the church kind of sells them dreams that you can do all this stuff and still have a guy waiting for you at the end. And like now, and the data just doesn't support it. It's like 50% of women are going to be single and childless.
I see what you're saying, Seamus. It very much sounds like the life of sin followed by a deathbed repentance attempt at Christianity. You know what I mean?
No, because there's a difference. There's like, and this is one of the distinctions you have to make. And part of why I brought up Jason Everett is because what he said to me when I asked him this question on air was the question you need to ask yourself is like, what could you tolerate 10 years from now in a relationship with this person? And that is going to be partially defined by that person's wounds, the things that they've done in their past. So a person having a very unfortunate sexual history doesn't just or even necessarily mean that they're going to cheat on you or be promiscuous. They could end up being monogamous and faithful, but they could still end up having all sorts of scars with respect to the way they view sex, with the way they view the opposite sex. They could become an angry, nasty person because of it. And you want to know that there's someone who has worked through it. There's no denying that it is better to be a virgin, right? But not everyone is, and God calls people to marry non-virgins as well.
Well, yeah, but I think my point is that it's like they just sort of sell, like, I think sometimes the church sort of sells dreams to women, because it's like you're kind of asking a guy, like, to me, something that's a bit unreasonable. Like, why would he wait when you've slept with X amount of men like for free?
Well,
right?
I think
I never see the church like really calling out like, hey, do not marry women that aren't virgins. I've never heard like, do not, like, they're a red flag if she slept with this many people. I've never really heard that. And so it's interesting. Like, I really don't.
No. Well, there's a couple different things to pull apart there. I mean, firstly, I've never heard anyone say don't marry a non-virgin, at least like at any church-sponsored talk.
How could they?
Yeah,
now?
like in this day and age, that's not so much a church thing as much as that is like, this is something people won't say. One thing we do believe in is repentance, and that a person can restore themselves with the help of Christ. God can restore people if you cooperate with him. But I would add one detail, which is that it doesn't say like men stay a virgin, women sleep around and then get married. It tells everyone to remain a virgin. And it will also tell women, by the way, that like the man you're with, he might have slept around. He might like have had struggles with a porn addiction or currently struggle with it.
The issue is
that's real.
The issue is though, like, women have so much more like obviously power on the sexual market. Like, there's so much more opportunity to do it from a young age, right? So you're going to have women that have slept around and men that are a bit naive and they don't know how to like if you have a guy that's a virgin and a woman that slept with, I don't know, like however many people, right? Like, he's going to be naive and he won't really be able to pick up on like certain red flags, I think.
I think there's some truth in that.
And I think the church doesn't really talk about like the baggage. Like, they don't really like talk about the baggage that comes with this stuff and like warning men about predatory women, because there are predatory women.
I totally agree with you. Look, I totally agree with you that there are predatory women. I think it's a big statement to say the church doesn't warn people about this, because I know plenty of Catholics who would say like, yeah, stay a virgin, try to marry a virgin. I also know others who would say it's important to be, Okay,
I'm Catholic too.
Well, I also know people who would say it's good to be equally yoked, right? Like, if you don't think you could handle that, if you're a virgin and this person has slept with a lot of people, that is something to consider in your discernment. It's not to say like you're evil because you don't want to marry someone who's not a virgin. I don't think there's anything.
Can we talk about what OnlyFans does to society? Because, we were talking about this downstairs like a couple days ago. It's basically all of these young women are deciding that they want to be prostitutes. It's just like it's like a digital version of it, but it's basically the same thing. Men can subscribe to pay you money in exchange for this behavior. And there was this clip that's going viral right now. I think Clown World reposted it from the Whatever podcast, where a woman says that she was hooking up with a guy just to break his heart.
Oh, I just watched that
that's
again
messed
today.
up, right?
Yeah, and then you know, the dude from Whatever is like, she says her hobby is to humble men, and he's like, and someone says you're a stripper.
Yeah, he says it.
Yeah, and then she's like, yeah, but I take their money, and it's like, no, listen. I feel like a lot of what we're talking about, what you're describing with dudes who have like addictions, porn addictions,
Yeah.
and you mentioning like women getting run through or whatever, and then OnlyFans and stripping, is that people are doing things that are genuinely detrimental across the board throughout society, not just related to dating.
Yeah.
And there are people who don't want to feel bad about it because misery loves company.
Yep.
So they tell everybody what you're doing is totally fine. Keep doing it, even though it's really bad. And the obvious example, the actual visible example is morbid obesity. Like, we know that if you are eating and gorging yourself, you will die sooner. And we don't want that. We want you to live a long, healthy life. But the people who enjoy eating hot fudge sundaes all day, every day, don't want to stop. They're addicted. So instead of accepting and admitting to themselves they have a problem, they seek out validation from other people who are addicted, creating a society of people who are engaging in extremely detrimental behaviors across the board, which brings me back to OnlyFans. I've met women who have said they've tried it and they gave up because they weren't making money. And now they have a bunch of porn online. It's everywhere. They were like, people stole the videos, people recorded the videos, people did a whole bunch of stuff, and they made like $17 and that was it. And that, there you are, you're a prostitute forever. Never, you can never change it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the average amount of money is for a woman that goes on OnlyFans, but it's not a lot.
I thought it was like $20 or something.
Yeah, it's not. I don't remember what it is, but I remember thinking like, wow, that's such a low payout.
Well, and it's also
why are there
sad
so
that
many-
any amount is enough for someone to do that in this culture. Like,
I think, Seamus, women and men are very, very different.
Yeah.
And it is sad, but consider there's tons of stories of women quitting their jobs to become prostitutes.
Or
like
marrying into money. I mean, it's basically a similar kind of thing. If you don't love the guy.
Sure, gold digging, but it's still different to marry someone, like to enter into a binding contract. Granted, now with no fault divorce, it is kind of meaningless. It used to be like you got married, you were there till the dude died, and then okay,
Al
I guess.
Pacino's like 90. He's got a 9-year-old wife or something.
And she's pregnant.
Yep.
Man.
Wild. Oh, you know, in defense of OnlyFans, I think this was Eva Lovia was talking about this because she did it. YouPorn in the porn industry, girls, you can't guarantee that they're not 18. In the porn industry, it's very difficult to vet the process. So there's a lot of child porn that gets through in that system. Whereas on OnlyFans, it's vetted 100%. So you know everything on there is legal and above board.
I'm not opposed to porn generally. Like, I'm fairly libertarian. People can do their thing. My issue is there is a social trend among many women. There's like a story of like a nurse. Like, I was a nurse making $50,000 a year and I quit. Now I make $200 doing porn. Like, is this a good thing? I don't think it is. Like, I don't know. Maybe I should start reading some more books by sex positive feminists. Or
no,
something.
that is the last thing that you should do. That is the last
means
thing.
it's the
Pearl, get
first.
him.
I think, I think women lie too about how much they make, because I went on the Whatever podcast and there was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 girls that said they made over $20K a month. And I ran the numbers and it was like less than 2,000 people or 3,000 people in the US make the number of like, make the money they're saying they make. I'm like, what are the odds they're all on one show? I think there's some incentive to lie about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah. Well, that's also a fair point,
Fake it
right?
till you make it.
And it's a
Yeah.
sad thing because a person might be embarrassed.
How embarrassing would that be? Oh my gosh! You put your body on the internet and you can get 10 buyers.
Well,
No, but
that's so embarrassing.
This is the reality of it.
Yeah.
So there are a few people I know. I know one woman who did cam girl stuff, and she literally thought that she would be making. She see these stories. Here's the crazy thing: these stories encourage more women to do it, and it never works. So you get these women that go on these shows and say, I'm making $20K a month, and they're not. And then I have a friend who's like, I'm going to try doing it. And I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. It's not going to work out. And then what did she say? She said all it was people sending messages saying, please post for free. Please post for free. I want a free sample. And then she made like $17 and was like, this is this is nuts. Like there's no money here. But now everything's out there.
Well, go ahead.
Well, and the girl on the show, I looked at her OnlyFans. I mean, not like that. But, I just wanted to see how many subscribers she had, and there was like no premium content. So I was like, where are you making? Because she said she made $50K a month.
So
I'm like,
Probably just not true.
Well, no, I was thinking it could be like prostitution. That
yeah.
was my thought.
Like overt.
So it's
I think
Like they're hitting her
OnlyFans
up
is
on
prostitution.
OnlyFans.
yeah.
Well,
sort of,
but yeah, but I was thinking like if they don't make it through there, maybe they go through.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very sad thing because you could also imagine someone being embarrassed about that, not admitting they're not making any money, and then what they're saying to make themselves sound impressive convinces more young women to do the same thing that they're doing. So maybe they're making $50,
Or they're
doing this,
taking
and
it
they
off
say,
the
I made
books.
it. Like again, no amount makes that worth it, but that is really sad.
I got good news though. With AI technology, all of this industry will be wiped out. Wiped out clean. All these women, there will not be women who are making a living doing this anymore. It's going to be a bunch of dudes, and they're going to be going to, porn.ai or whatever. I don't even know if that exists.
Probably real
And they're
right
going to be
now.
like, render me a video of like 2 guys and a chick. And then it's going to render the video and they're going to upload it and charge $5 for it. But then what's going to happen is every person in the world will just buy a subscription to the porn AI bot and just tell it whatever they want. Yep. And so then women will be like, these women who are doing it now are going to be like, I can't make any money doing it anymore.
Dude, porn has already caused so many problems for society. AI porn is just going to be unbearable.
Dude,
No one's
people
gonna leave
are
their
going to go
house.
insane.
You'll be
They're
able to
gonna go
change it in
completely
real time. You'll be watching. You'll be like, faster, slower, harder.
Put an ent in there and Gollum.
A deer walks in the room.
But that is the thing. Like you're joking, but it's just going to become more and more depraved because people
I
don't
know.
do anything with it.
I want to see Gollum and Frodo with Erwin. What's her name?
You put the one cock ring. I'm sorry, did I?
I have a question. Do you think with the growing rise of sexless men, that porn is actually helpful to society because they're not then aggressive? Because
Maybe.
that typically
No.
happens.
I think wasn't that a conspiracy theory?
And also
Like-
with do you think it keeps together sexless marriages?
So I would say that if it's a crutch to lean on, it actually causes far more problems than it solves. I think that the warped understanding of sex that we have in the first place that allows for porn to be not only legal but so prolific is the same corrupt set of sexual morals that allows for things like no-fault divorce and for these sexless marriages to happen. So I think it's all one part of the same corrupt infrastructure, and we just have to do away with all of it.
I think women care substantially more about what other women think of them.
Oh yeah.
And so that's a big component of all of this when it comes to marriages, when it comes to people who are upset. There, and maybe it's just because of what I see in TVs and movie and what I hear from other people, who are influenced by TVs and movie. But it seems so often there's many stories of women who are in a relationship with the husband, and then they're talking to their other woman friend, and they say, "Here's the thing, my husband," and they go, "Oh no, that's so bad," and then they're like, "Oh no," and now I feel bad about it.
You're absolutely right. I've talked to so many, and that's why the trad cons will come in and be like, "Oh, just find the right girl. She won't do any of the divorce stuff. You won't be in a sexless marriage. Just find the right girl." But the thing is, women are so easily influenced. I'll have guys for the divorce documentary. They'll have a girl. She had all the typical boxes checked that you would want in a wife, and then she gets in the wrong group of friends, and then she just divorces her husband, takes the kids, takes half, and just ruins this man's life.
Well, divorce is contagious, right?
Yeah.
We know that if you have a friend who's divorced, you're more likely to get divorced. I would say that it's really important. In our modern time, we have this very atomized vision of what family should be. You just have 2 people living in a house together with their children, no extended family nearby, and you're also not part of a community that has the same values as you. I would say if somebody wants to live a traditional life, it's not enough to find one other traditional person, right? You probably want to be surrounded by people in a community that is more traditional, where it would be an absolute scandal if you ended up getting divorced.
Well, I think that's going to be harder and harder with media.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, I just think things won't really change until they change the laws. That's my personal opinion.
I think there's truth, and it's so difficult
at
because
least 50-50 custody would be and maybe something to protect men from not getting absolutely wrecked with child support, spousal support.
Well, we should just get rid of no-fault divorce.
agreed.
I banish it.
Listen.
I'd ban birth control too.
This is what
Based. Oh my gosh.
Listen.
Yes.
And I just take away, repeal the 19th.
This is what feminists are arguing. When we did a segment on no-fault divorce, and then they started ragging on us, and they gave Seamus's quote to Ian.
It was one of my best quotes ever. And they
Undeserved,
gave it
yeah.
to Ian Crossland.
Even Crossland.
Even Crossland. Even
So,
Crossland
listen.
got a good quote. And I did.
What they're arguing is that marriage is now better because women and men both of them can just leave whenever they want.
That's what makes a marriage better.
That's literally not marriage. Yeah. So my point is, okay, fine. Here's what I want to say to all of those feminists. Whatever it is you have now, let's keep it exactly the way it is, but we'll create something called super marriage. And if after you're married, you decide to enter a super marriage, now you can't get divorced without a valid reason. Problem solved.
Yeah. I mean, look, I agree with you that we need to end no-fault divorce. I said this is one of the things that Jezebel was so horrified by, that they quoted it and gave the quote to Ian Crossland. But people talk about how many marriages fail, and if we removed no-fault divorce, so many people would be stuck in these marriages. All right, what they don't consider is that people are less cautious about who they choose to marry because divorce is an option. And also because we live in a culture where people do have sex before they're married, they end up being blinded by the sex. They don't evaluate the person objectively. They end up becoming bonded by all the chemical reactions that happen in their brain when they have sex with somebody. And so you end up making really bad decisions. And people say, well, if we change the cultural paradigm, what about all these people who made these bad decisions? There's going to be fewer of them. There will be fewer people making those kinds of decisions.
I was going to answer your question about porn, and if it's because what I think it is doing is, and I'd love to talk more about no-fault divorce too. It burns my mind almost every day. That I think it is helping young people get their aggression out. Maybe it's winding tighter and tighter and tighter until it explodes. But a lot of times, young sexless men, they just get put into the military to go kill, and I'm not seeing that now. I mean, it's drastic in the other direction. You might argue that nobody or hardly anybody wants to go fight. So maybe it's completely depleted the testosterone of the youth.
Maybe we need enforced monogamy.
Actually, I have another question. So the more women have been in charge of their own mate selection, the more partners we've had. So is there something about women that's actually not monogamous?
Well, no, because I think what you're touching, I mean, those things are correlated, right? So that's correlated with the advent of reliable methods of artificial contraceptive. And even when you had arranged...
It started before, like the birth rate started to decline before it actually, like, because a lot of people think it was the 60s, but it's actually been declining since the 1800s. And in 1920, like we do see a dip in the birth rate. And like they attribute that to women like living in an apartment outside, like by herself, where before she would go straight from like her parents' house to her husband's house.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting, like when you think about it, like it did, like women like then began to have more partners sexually. So it's like, it seems like throughout history, like they've just been trying to like keep women from like not to be whores.
So you're saying that women shouldn't be allowed to own property?
I actually have never thought about that question.
The answer is no, by the way.
Maybe.
I
like it. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but
I think that what's been pretty well understood by basically every culture through all of history is like men are going to try to have sex, right? Men are going to try to persuade women to have sex with them. And so societies have understood that we need to get women to be really good at saying no to this. Or else everyone's just going to be having sex outside of marriage. You're going to have a lot of illegitimate children, a lot of infanticide and abortion, which is what ended up happening. That's actually not hyperbolic. If you look at ancient Rome, the more sexually licentious people came, the more infanticide there was. I mean, it's a reality.
Do you think
I want to? Oh, hit that point.
Do you think it would be better for you, or just for women in general, to have like 3 kids with 3 different phenomenal dudes, or 3 kids with 1 guy?
I would say 3 kids with 1 guy.
Then
I guess you have to. If you think about it from like a gene perspective, you probably get better like quality genes. I'd imagine if you said they're like high, but like for a society, no, like one.
That's like saying let me try 3 different guys because one of the kids will succeed, instead of being like let's just have kids together and raise them.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm like I guess they could say that.
I want to jump to this.
A good man's hard to find. You're gonna find 3, and then they're all gonna be with the same woman. It's ridiculous.
Well, they're not good guys then.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Let's jump to the story. I want to pull up the story from the New York Post because I love this. Making women look dumb is a new disturbing podcast trend. And
I'd like to get my medal here.
here's a picture from the Whatever podcast, and there's Mary Morgan from Pop Culture Crisis. They're sitting with the crew, and then you've got Destiny hanging out. And you know why I take issue with this article? Because if the Whatever podcast has Mary on the show and she is based and very smart, how are they making women look dumb when they have women on who also criticize other women and they criticize each other? Like, so who are they arguing is being made to look dumb? Are they arguing the women he brings on are making Mary look dumb, making you, Pearl, look dumb?
I would like to say I was very offended when I saw this. because they didn't include my podcast in it. I don't know why my picture wasn't there too. But I think you're right though. I think it's stupid. Like, women make themselves look stupid. I didn't do shit. Like,
I've made fun of the whatever podcast. Like, I did a cartoon about it. I understand why it exists. I do understand that these women are out there.
Was that your cartoon?
Yes, yeah, that was me. Yes, that was me.
Oh, that was so funny.
Thank you. I'm really glad you enjoyed that. That was, but I think that my view of it, and maybe it's changed a little bit recently actually, is you have this podcast and these young women who kind of are very young and they just regurgitate whatever the culture tells them, goes on this show. And then you have a guy who's in his 30s who obviously knows better because he's a guy in his 30s and he explains to them that they're wrong. And then it gets clipped and it goes viral and it's like, look at this dumb girl. One thing I was actually very, I'll say, impressed by, maybe something that made me feel a little optimistic, was that when the roles were reversed and Lila Rose was on that show, and her as like a good traditionalist woman, she was arguing with a man who was trying to justify sleeping around. Pretty much everyone in the comments was on her side. And every clip I saw of that video was people praising her. And so it does look like, even though the targets are usually women, what people on this who are watching these podcasts are upset about is the sexual revolution and its consequences. And they don't like when people kind of engage in these rationalizations for this type of behavior.
Yeah. I think
you know what it is, funny thing I will point out though, a trend on Instagram is for women to make fake podcast clips. Have you noticed this?
No.
On Instagram, female influencers will buy these microphones and then they'll say something that
That's genius.
Yeah.
Really
It'll be a clip where it'll just be them talking to no one, and they'll say something like, I think that men should be good providers, and too many women, insert opinion. And that's the end of the clip, and it's got 1 million views.
Why do I even do my whole hour-long podcast? Why do we do this, Tim? Let's just make clips.
Let's make fake shorts for YouTube.
Oh,
you know what's
my
crazy?
gosh.
I think that the older women are more delusional. That's my opinion.
How so?
Well, it's like, I just think they're dumber on my show.
Hold on. When you say older women, do you mean older women or like older women who are single? Because that's also two separate categories, right?
I mean, I'd say the majority of people that go on the shows are single. But like,
I thought you were going to say are dumb, but
I just want to point this out.
But I would just, sorry, go ahead.
No. Finish your point.
I would just say that I think that the older women are more delusional on my show. And I think that's a lot of times like why men date younger, because they're like thinking they'll be like better when they're older, but they're just as delusional.
So look at this. New York Post says, while OnlyFans model Nicolette Nicole admitted that her appearance on the podcast was to bolster her own following, she told Vice the clips were definitely chosen to create controversy and make her look dumb and shame her. No. The only thing I want to point out is calling somebody on OnlyFans a model.
No, but you know what makes me mad? Okay, because what the girls will do is they'll go on the show and then after they'll play victim, like, oh, boo-hoo, poor me. They've done this on my show so many times where like they'll come on and then they'll sometimes say out straight out misandristic statements and then go back later and say, oh, I'm a victim, blah, blah, blah. When it's like, if you say dumb shit, like there's so many women that go on these shows and don't go viral and don't say stupid shit and actually go viral for the right reasons. But if you go viral for saying something stupid, that's your own fault.
Well, that's the thing. They say, so the article that's being cited by the New York Post is Vice, and their subhead is, the whatever podcast is bait, you can stop falling for it. No, it isn't. They had Lila Rose and Mary Morgan on that show. Where are the clips making fun of them? They're not. In fact, the clips are praising them. The clip of Lila went viral because she was like telling a guy off, and then people were like, wow, she's very smart.
Well, even she wasn't telling him off. He was trying to tell her off, and she was just very calmly like stating her position.
And the clip that went really viral was praising her.
Yes.
What's really
everyone
happening
in the comments was praising. And it's funny because I saw one of these red pill channels post it to try to shame her. They're like, oh, this woman tries to tell this alpha what's what. But all of the comments on their channel were like, no, she's right. Like, this guy's completely wrong.
What Vice is actually doing is saying, stop making us look dumb because we're dumb.
Well, it's they're no. They're saying stop making the sexual revolution look bad, because if this was a bunch of left-wing men talking down to women who are trad wives and saying you're an idiot who's missing out on what you should be doing in life, they would say this podcast is great.
Yep.
Do you think that it's women should be like, I think what happens, a lot of people get offended is the thought that a woman is supposed to be raising kids. Your job in life is to be a wife and a mother. And like, not everybody wants that. I mean, maybe people will argue that every woman deep down does want that.
The majority of women do want that, I would say. I think they surveyed childless women, or like it was like 80% or something, 85% said they wanted kids. I can't remember the actual study. I think the issue is like they can't find the right guy to have kids with, or the guy that they want. And like that, and usually when I talk to girls on the show, they'll say like, oh, I'm happy single, or I'm happy not having kids. And I'll like, if I ask further questions and say like, what about if you found like the guy that meets all your criteria, and the majority of the time they'll say yes.
I remember, I just want to mention this. I was at a bar with my uncle and my cousin were visiting. And so we were all at the bar, and her and I were the same age. So we must have been like 22, 23 at the time. We're talking to this bartender who's probably in her 40s. And my cousin says, I'm like never going to have kids. And the bartender's like, how old are you? She's like, I'm 22. And the bartender goes, shut up. Stop. He's like, shut up. You're 22. You have no idea what you want.
No, 22-year-olds should.
And I agree that they should, but in this culture, they don't. And if someone is telling you, like, I know I don't want to have kids, here's the thing. If they're not saying, I will sacrifice having a family and sacrifice having children because there is a broader, noble goal which I wish to achieve, then, okay, I think that's a person who probably does know what they want and you can take seriously. But if they're saying, I know in my early 20s, I don't want to have kids and it's for selfish reasons. Okay, this is just someone who's immature. That's not like a well thought out life plan. That's, I want to do things that make me feel good instead of thinking about what I can contribute.
I learned pretty early on that to not use terms, say I'll never do something or I'll always do something. It's just, it always fails. No, it's just not very effective.
Remember that video of the kids in like the 50s? They're being asked about war or whatever, and they sound like adults.
I know.
Because it used to be right. It used to be that kids were surrounded by adults and learned very quickly how to socially interact, what was and what wasn't. Now, kids do nothing for 5 years. We put them in front of iPads or computer screens, and they watch Elsa and other nonsense. Then they go to kindergarten where they dance around with pride flags. Then they get institutionalized and learn garbage nonsense. Like they don't learn real world things. Then finally, by the time they're 22, they get out of college, having been institutionalized their whole lives, and they don't know how to operate in the real world.
Yeah, it's because it's not a biological problem. I mean, it might be an endocrine system problem, but I'm looking
Culture.
I look online and I'm like, okay, there are so many hot girls. There are so many hot girls online. I watch whatever. I watch all these, and I'm like, these are beautiful young women, prime candidates for motherhood. Like, and why are they not having kids? What is going on?
You know what the number one like indicator, I forgot what the stat is, but it's basically like the birth rate goes down when women go to college. So like women start having like less children when they started going to college.
And it's
and they also, when mate selection was more in the woman's hands, basically.
What happened when it became more in the woman's hands?
Because like in the 20s, that was when women started to get their own apartment. So like before, they would go straight from the dad to the husband. And like then women like started to go get like the roaring 20s, right? They started getting their own apartment, and like they then had more control of their mate selection. And like when women have more control of their mate selection, they go for a smaller and smaller percentage of guys, where it's like, I mean, why would they keep the bad boy away when they say like, get that guy away from my daughter? Because they like the dad knew he's not going to stick around. But women, it's like, we're just so stupid when it comes to mate selection.
Just because you work, not you personally, but work with emotions instead of
logic. Yeah, and it's also like, I don't think we have a good grasp of like our league. Like I think women often sleep out of their league.
Well, that's factually true though.
Yeah.
So like all of the scientific research and dating data show that women always go for the most attractive men, but they tend to be able to because men have a wider range of willingness of like women have a very tight range of their willingness to sleep, and men have a very wide range. Right. So what happens is, it's something like the bottom 60% of guys are just like left out of it. Mm-hmm. And then it's most of the top 20% of guys who are sleeping with all of the women.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, they'll always say, oh, well, dating apps aren't real life, but that's the number one way people are meeting under 30.
True. Yeah.
Dude, those things are depression. Have you ever used those things?
The dating apps? No, not really.
Man, I started to do it for market research because I was building mines in the social app. We were like, let's maybe do a Tinder thing. And then I got addicted to it. I met a girl on it, and it was like, I'm like, look, why? I'm judging these people by the way they look. It's the most superficial crap. And I felt sick, depressed afterwards.
Well, I mean, it's honest. I think most guys, it starts with looks. You don't think?
But it's like the sound of their voice and the way they smell is a big part of it.
Dudes just go on and swipe right on every single woman because there's like, I was reading data on how men and women use these apps differently. Mm-hmm. Women go on dating apps and then swipe right on guys they find attractive and then get messages from every single guy. And then guys go on there and swipe on every single girl, hoping one of them matches with them.
Right. Well, think about it. Like women swipe right 5% of the time.
Guys, just like there's a video where a guy's going like,
60.
wow,
Yeah,
just like
it's
swiping everything.
It's like between 40 and 60%.
Depends on the time of day.
app.
If it's after 1 a.m., it's probably going to be like 70 or 80% because I'm in a desperate mode. I'm not anymore, but at the time but it's
interesting because women like pick non-monogamy in our 20s and then pick monogamy in our 30s when you think about it.
But that's obvious. You know why? Like it's getting harder for the woman as she gets older. So now she's like, I need a guy who's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But again, like, so when you have a culture like ours where the sexual revolution has just completely destroyed the relationship between both sexes, that seems to be what tends to happen. But like in most traditional cultures, that's not the case, right? Like people settle down early, they get married. Women are known for straying less often than men do. And so this is part of what I was emphasizing earlier. This is why, and I believe Fulton Sheen even said this, like, a society's value can be measured by the value of its women because the men are always going to want to sleep around. The question is, are women going to be the gatekeeper and say, well, like, no, we're not having sex unless we're married, unless you can provide a stable home and family for myself and for our children, and you're actually going to stick around.
I guess there's a diminishing return to raising psychopaths. Like if you'd have a lot of kids that were all horrible humans, that would be worse than having very few kids that were phenomenal humans. But then there comes a point where it's like population risk. You might lose the human population if you don't have enough kids. So it's better to just churn them out. But like, I think that in order to like, is it better or worse in other societies where they didn't have a sexual revolution? The thing is we have...
It's coming.
Well, no society has survived a sexual revolution.
I think it's coming everywhere. I think like with social media, like I get messages from guys all over the world saying, okay, like feminism is coming. And you have places that were typically like more traditional. Like India has a 1% divorce rate. And I get messages all the time like saying that under 30, and I don't know the exact stat, but under 30, like the divorce rate is rising because Western ideas are going everywhere. In my opinion, most places, I think it's going. I don't want it to get bad. Like I don't want it to get worse. But if I had to predict it, I think like you will see women getting more modern.
Have you seen the psychological operations the military's been doing?
No.
They get like a 20-year-old like e-girl, and then they have her make an account where she's talking about how great it is to be in the Army or the Navy or whatever, to get Sims to join.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Well,
Psychological operations.
With what Pearl's saying about how in countries that were more traditional, you see an increase in these abnormal lifestyle choices. This is the one form of colonization and imperialism that the left is very, very comfortable with. If we went into these countries and we destroyed their temples or took their gold, the left would be very upset, and rightfully so. But instead, what we're doing is exporting ideas that literally destroy these people's families, and it's praised, it's celebrated.
But I wonder if you were able to pull, because now we're in the age of revealment, the revelation. We're in the apocalypse, essentially. We're seeing the thoughts of people now that we didn't used to see. So yeah, we're seeing the misery of the unmarried, but if we had seen into the minds of people in 1938, would they be just as miserable or more because they were getting beat by their husbands? Like Sean Connery's like,
but this is analysis that men were all just beating their wives.
Yeah. Like, well, that's a wave of propaganda that they did in like the 40s. I can't remember when they did it. There's this girl who like breaks it down really well. Her name's Rachel Wilson. She wrote the book Occult Feminism. But the propaganda, like it was mainly propaganda, this idea that like men were beating their wives left and right. Like it's a wave of propaganda that was like between the 40s and the 60s, I think.
Oh,
and
so
like you have men.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously have always had men who were bad people. There have been horrible human beings throughout all of history. And yes, the man is the head of the household, so he's an authority. And sometimes people abuse their authority. That doesn't mean you do away with authority, right? That doesn't mean authority is illegitimate. And so, yeah, there have always been animals who beat their wives. The idea that is inherent to the family structure and to male headship in the home is a leftist lie. It's complete nonsense.
Inherent only to marriages where you can't escape. If the woman's bound and no one's going to take her word for it, kind of thing.
Well, but if you're in a traditional, all right, so there's a couple ways to approach this. Firstly, if you're in a traditional community where people are near their family and friends, if you married my sister and you're beating her, or you married my daughter and you're beating her, like people had larger families. She had a lot of brothers. She had a dad. She had other men who were interested in protecting her. Like there were very serious social incentives to not be that kind of person if you had it in you to be that kind of person. The idea that men were going, we're in the patriarchy, so I'm okay if my sister's husband beats her or my daughter's husband beats her.
Sorry,
it's total
Toots,
nonsense.
It's called the patriarchy law.
Yeah, it's complete nonsense.
The rule of thumb.
That has always been one of the most universally detested behaviors by men. nothing makes men angrier than woman beaters, other than maybe sexual abusers and people who
Men
abuse children.
fantasize about stopping villains and protecting women and children.
Yes.
It's like every action movie ever. It's Spider-Man trying to save Mary Jane and a school bus full of children. And then there are bad guys who do bad things.
And what feminists would have you believe is that what men really fantasize about is being that villain who wants to hurt women. It's nonsense.
Yeah, it is completely.
I bet a lot of the violence of the 1900s comes from like post-war to guys coming back from the war and becoming alcoholic and just mad aggression, unfocused aggression. Were you about to say something?
I don't remember.
Okay.
That
it was
was-
Oh, I'm
a couple
sorry.
minutes
That's okay,
ago.
it's okay, it's okay.
I was like, I'm stomping on this one.
But like the idea that feminists were the ones who came around and told us that woman beating is bad is the most insane nonsense.
Right.
Well, I can't remember who I was talking to, but someone was talking about how there's like a rape culture. Oh yeah. So I worked with somebody, and she asked me, "How many of your friends are okay with rape?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "How many of the guy friends you know are like cool with it?" And I was like,
0.
None? What are you talking about? She was like, come on, really?
Yeah.
And then I was like, what? Are you kidding? Do you actually think that guys in this world are all joking and laughing about this stuff? And then she said, we live in a rape culture that promotes it. I said, what are you talking about? Law and Order SVU has been on for like 20 years. And the whole premise of the show is that it's especially heinous. And we're trying desperately to stop it.
Well, and again, they've also expanded the definition of rape and sexual assault. So it's like what is sexual assault? Like that can include like a guy grabbing a girl's butt at a bar. Is that the same thing as like what you would think?
Yeah, it's not.
It's
about, like, rubbing
it's
her
assault.
Right. Yeah, it's assault, but it's not the same as a rape.
Other
very wrong.
And the other thing they don't talk about is in family court. Family in court is not based on evidence. It is not innocent until proven guilty. It is based on a balance of probabilities. And I think it's different state by state here, but I know that a lot of US family courts, it's the same. In the UK, this is how they do it. So it's more likely you did it than you didn't, but it's not based on evidence.
Right.
So a lot of times what'll happen, and I interview these guys, is like their entire reputation is ruined in these communities. That's horrible. So these women, and the crazy thing is, oh my gosh, these guys, they'll be married, right? And the women will go to the women's shelters, and at the women's shelters, like it's basically a business. So they'll tell the women what to say based on your background. So, you're Irish. So they might say, okay, he's a drunken Irish or something like that. And the women, and with one phone call, can get a restraining order on the guy. And typically he can't even and with that one phone call, he can be kicked out of the house he pays for. He's still paying for a mortgage on it. And she can also take the children. So with one phone call, she can do that. And it takes it can take some of the guys, it took them up to a year to even go to court about this. Yep. And now,
a year without your children.
And now in the UK, the other thing is they are paid they get a free lawyer if they accuse a guy of sexual assault, rape, or abuse in court. So what'll happen is all these guys will be known as an abuser, a sexual assault, like rape. I don't know what you can say on here.
Rapist.
In these communities. And it's like the women have all the power. They can do this with one phone call, and it's not based off of evidence.
Have you guys heard about what's going on with Bam Margera?
No.
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
So apparently the story is he hasn't seen his kid in months.
Yeah.
And his argument and his lawyers argue that it's arbitrary that he's being denied access to his son under some argument about the safety of the child. But he's arguing like there's no risk to the child at all. This is ridiculous. She's just keeping from my kid. So he's having a breakdown. He's getting depressed. He says he cries every day. And so he calls his family and says, you're keeping me from my son. And then apparently he said, this is what they reported, that he said he would smoke crack till he died if he didn't get to see his kid. Yeah. So they sent the cops after him, and the cops 5150'd him.
Meaning they took him to an institution.
They involuntarily institutionalized him because, like, dude, if you deprive a man of his child and he becomes extremely depressed and says, give me back my son. Like, they make movies about this with Harrison Ford. You know what I mean? Like, instead they're like, lock him up.
I spoke to a guy for the documentary the other day. The wife is treating the kid as gender binary or gender neutral, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah.
She's abusing the child.
What's that situation?
His name's Harrison. The Daily Wire covered it. Harrison. Did you donate to his cause?
Is this in Canada?
I actually think he told me you did. I don't.
Did I?
Harrison T something T.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, but like no,
said I
it was
did?
in California.
Okay.
What was the GoFundMe? Did I give that
There's
guy
a
money?
guy
Yeah,
named James
I think he told me you did.
Not younger?
Tell us more.
No, but basically like his
No, it would be a gift send to go.
His ex-girlfriend was like raising the kid as like non-binary, and like he's just spent all this money trying. He still doesn't have primary custody. even though she's literally, and there's nothing he can do about it.
This is not Jet's.
Yeah,
Do you
guys,
remember-
you guys should donate to this in the chat because he's actually really nice. He's super nice, and you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell
I
how
did.
much he like loves his son.
I did. So this is a give, send, go. Help a
Yeah.
single father fight for his son. I gave him $10,000.
And this is what a father's supposed to do, right? He's trying to fight for his child.
Right. But it's so interesting because a lot of the trad cons will be like, oh, well, why don't men just like fight for their kids? And it's like, well, if you saw what they have to go through, like a lot of guys go bankrupt because again, with that one phone call, he's paying for a mortgage that he's not even living in, like, cause the house is still in his name. So he's paying a mortgage on a house that is like, he's kicked out of because of the restraining order. Then before court even happens, he can be on child support and the entire community thinks he's an abuser. And a lot of these guys have lost his jobs, their jobs because like, I mean, if you're, all your friends, sometimes your family thinks you're an abuser, right? Like, you're gonna go kind of crazy.
Yeah,
And so like a lot of times these guys, now they're unemployed, now they're in a ton of debt, and there's nothing they can do. And this is when a lot of guys zero out and they kill themselves.
It's very sad, and I think that is one explanation. Like a lot of people, they fight until they can't anymore. Like as a traditionalist conservative, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say that about someone who like literally couldn't fight anymore.
Well,
if they did, that's like a callous approach to it.
Well, no, because what they'll do is they'll look at the stat that says like the men that fight for their kids get custody, but they don't like, and so they'll say, well, why
I
don't
get
men
what you're saying.
just fight for their kids? And it's like, okay, yeah, but the average guy doesn't have $100,000 to spend to get custody of his children.
Interesting.
On
So
lawyer fees, just-
Yeah, and then the lawyers will tell him this, like, because it's kind of, if you're
You're
a
gonna
lawyer,
lose, basically?
yeah, because it's a tough, like, it's tough for guys to win unless the mother is like, there's something wrong with her. So the cases that do go to court, like, typically there's something wrong with the woman.
Even then, there was a case with that little boy that was eventually killed by his mother. They gave her custody because she's
In
the
the
mother.
UK,
and they
right?
want statistics. No, that was in the United States, and it
Okay.
was clear that she was addicted to meth, et cetera, and all
Yeah.
these things. And they still gave her custody because, again, like you said, it's just based on probabilities. And those probabilities in this case was an unusual case. And like I think literally the day or a day after they gave it back to her, she had killed the boy. So
I spoke. There's one guy in the documentary in the UK, a very similar case.
I've heard of many cases in the
Yeah,
UK.
there's a very similar case in the UK, and this guy, his friends, like this was the kid who dies, like best friend, and the government just took the kid. They didn't even give it back to
No,
the dad.
yeah,
The government
no
just took
questions
the
asked.
kid.
We're gonna go to super chats, but I will add, I actually forgot that I donated to that guy, but I saw his story and I was moved by it, and I also want to help, so I donated $10,000. I've also donated $10,000 to an activist to push back on child sex change laws and to help fight against it. I'm saying this now because I guess my question for everybody is, I didn't mention that I did this, and I don't know if I should or shouldn't. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
dude, don't mention that stuff, man. You're the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight rises,
that's the
baby.
question. Like with the give, send, to go for that guy, it's like publicly you can see my name, but nobody wrote about it. Nobody said anything about it. With Daniel Penny, it was big news, and everybody was putting my name on top. And that one I said I did, but for this this activist fighting against the child sex change stuff, and for this guy fighting for his kid, I just didn't say anything about it. I just like did it, but I'm wondering if people think that it would be good if I did. I don't want it to be like, look at me, look how great I am. But maybe it might be like, hey, look, there's a big impact happening. So I'm curious.
It's
what people
weird
think.
to be like, look how much I donated. I get that, but it's good to spread awareness for the cause itself. So sometimes it's worth, expressing it.
Yeah, no, I think it's like if you do it, like I think it inspires other people to do it too. I think you should say something when you do.
When I do,
I think.
Yeah.
I
I think people know like you're a nice guy. I don't think you're trying to like flash your money in people's,
right. Well, I also think too, it's like, just understand we run a successful company here, and I think that the money we make should go towards things that are good, and we put our money where our mouth is. So, donating to this guy to fight for his kid, I think is exactly what people would want their money to be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the money that we get is like advertising and stuff like that, and a portion of it is memberships. Obviously, a lot of it's going for infrastructure and things like that. But I'm just like, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's what we should be doing with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he's so like, I could just tell how bad, like he spent so much money trying to get his kid. And I could just tell like how happy he was to finally have like, I think he has 50-50 custody now, but he,
legit.
yeah. But
At least
he
has
like,
that.
and I could just see how like much. So people should donate because
Dang, Tim.
he's really nice. He's going to be in the documentary. So
Let's talk about some super chats here. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and head over to timcast.com because the members-only uncensored show will get a bit more spicy and not so family-friendly, because then we're going to talk about more family issues. And again, timcast.com, click join us. It'll be up at about 10 p.m. and we'll be live. Then you can even call in and ask questions. All right, Belly Flop says, hear me out. Presidents don't have term limits, but every year or two they can be voted out. Keep good ones in as long as possible. Remove the bad ones ASAP. Current 2-term system is antimatter.
Interesting.
I see. When it comes to
That's interesting.
this question of term limits and also how we modify the presidency, I'm not sold on this idea, but one interesting idea I have heard is 1 6-year term. So they don't have to worry about re-election. They also don't have as much time in office, but they're also not spending time campaigning.
Right.
I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then some of like their policies will actually take into, so you'll be able to see some of the early effects of those policies, as opposed to like you'll see it in the beginning of the next person that then takes over if they get voted out for other things they're not and not related at all. I agree with that. It's actually a good idea.
Yeah. All right, let's read this. I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, Idris Elba couldn't play James Bond. He isn't suave enough. Like Jason Statham, he could play generic action hero. Now Henry Cavill could play James Bond. You are correct, sir. I completely agree with what you're saying, and I see it. I was saying earlier, like, I didn't care if Idris Elba played James Bond. A lot of people are concerned about race swapping. The Little Mermaid flopped, and I think a component of why it flopped is the race swap, because people aren't going to feel the nostalgia seeing a character they don't recognize. Whereas with James Bond, they change the actor all the time. However, you make a really good point. Idris Elba is, I think, a fantastic actor and a great action star and has done incredible roles, but he doesn't have that smarmy bit that James Bond does. Like, you know, James Bond, call it suave.
He's smug, yeah.
Yeah, he's got that smugness to him, like shaken, not stirred. I'm so special. I want my drink made just for me.
As a part of a minority group, gingers.
Redhead?
I was very sad that they took out the red hair, because that's always what I was for Halloween as a child. I know.
It's weird. There is a weird redhead erasure thing. All my redhead friends have been telling me about. They're like, it's always a redhead character who gets recast.
I know.
All right, Hillbilly. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say ginger representation. Bring it back.
Hillbilly Clinton says, I'd like to think that the beavers are tired of us and are ready to end it all and flood the earth again.
Is that what the beavers flooded the earth the first time? I love the implication. Just again.
No. You don't understand. The beavers are the how and not the why.
Of course,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so when God flooded the earth, you have to understand how the flood happened.
Yeah,
he had
beavers
beavers.
were the instrument,
He made the beavers do it. We're not the earth is not like the world is on the back of a turtle. It's a gigantic valley surrounded by big beaver dams.
Beavers, it's true.
That's right.
That's
and the
the
beavers,
firmament.
the firmament is a bunch of beaver dams, and they could just choose to.
The great beavers that build a firmament. If they become too displeased.
Frozen sticks.
Oh man.
The Quartering says, I'm just here to remind people about Coffee Brand Coffee Father's Day gift boxes are running out, and learn how to finally find a wife from Pearl.
Can we just talk about the quartering for a minute?
Coffee Brand
That's
Coffee.
awesome. Quartering's awesome.
Coffee.
Yeah, Coffee Brand Coffee.
Are you guys your fans?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jeremy, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm saying Coffee Brand Coffee as many times as possible because he paid for it.
do you know, do you guys get along?
No, he's always tweeting at me.
Oh, you guys should do a show or something. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about as based, like, straightforward as you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would if he was nicer to me on Twitter.
All right,
but
Jeremy.
He's
There
quite
you go.
rude.
Yeah, that's the problem with text is there's no context
Yeah.
and tone is lost.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's insulted my looks a couple times.
Oof.
That was pretty rude.
Well, that's not nice.
yeah.
Did you insult him?
No,
Well,
I've never insulted him.
Then you should tell everyone to buy Cast Brew coffee.
yeah.
We'll buy Cast Brew ads on your channel.
All right, Jeremy, be nicer on Twitter, man. The world is your oyster.
Montana Gibson says, Tim, please get this out. I work for Adams Beverage, who delivers BL products for AL and NC. Is that Bud Light? They want me to finish my conscious inclusion training, and I'm not going to do it. Would love some advice on what to do if they fire me. If I were you, I would write down, take notes of everything, whatever the conscious inclusion training is, and then bring it to a lawyer. It's often what you'll find with these inclusivity trainings is they're overtly racist. They'll say like, white people do this thing and white people think this. Yeah. And not only that, many of these trainings will show stereotypes of Mexicans, Asians, and black people. Yep. And their intention is to be like, don't stereotype them. Some people think this about Mexicans. And then doing that is racist because like you could then go to the EEOC and say, you know, no one was saying anything about this particular racial group and these things until they brought everyone into a room, made them sit down and watch a video explaining to them how to make fun of people based on race. And I think that alone is violating, like, businesses should not be able to go to you and be like, here's what some people think about this race. But they've done that. So it really just depends on what that training has, and, you know, talk to a lawyer. What do we got here from Raymond G. Stanley Jr.? He says, question, Tim, as we move to forward the line, we're starting to fight fire with fire. The cult would attack Popo department online. Would it be wrong for us to do the same for the reading PD? You mean like activist stuff, like criticizing them and sending emails and everything? Like, you should definitely do phone calls. Like you guys hear about the Christian guy who got arrested for preaching?
I don't
No,
think so.
it was this in Canada?
No,
It
it was in
doesn't shock me
Pennsylvania.
because I've heard of it happening in Canada. But
It was in Pennsylvania, and there was a pride rally.
It's been about time.
And a couple of guys were holding up, one guy was holding up a sign that had like, it said God, what did it say? I mean, you guys might know. He was about to say something like, God is not the one who spreads confusion or something like that. Maybe you know the quote. Is that?
I didn't see. I mean, I didn't.
He
see
got
this guy's
arrested for
sign.
preaching. The cop told
Okay.
him, stop saying this or else. And he was like, it's a public sidewalk and I can say these things. And the cop arrested him. Yep. So definitely, I think you should criticize the Reading. Is it Reading or Reading? I don't know.
It was Damon Atkins is the guy that got arrested.
Is that his name? Yeah.
Preacher, yeah.
Yep.
I think
And it's crazy. I'm like, if you were a classical liberal, this should be like alarm bells in your head.
Well,
the guy was standing on a public sidewalk and he yelled, God is not, and they grabbed him and arrested him.
Right.
You're allowed to stand on a street corner with a sign and protest.
Dude, the Christian right literally predicted everything that's happening right now.
Or did
Everything.
they manifest it?
No, we didn't manifest it, bro. This is like what's happening right here is actually a political cartoon. Like somebody could have made this as a political cartoon 10 years ago, where it's two panels and there's a gay pride parade and a Christian protesting it, and then the police come and like arrest the Christian instead of the
I
people
said
indecently
this
exposed.
was going to happen.
Yeah.
I've
We
been
all
saying
do.
this for years.
The Christian right's been saying it for like 30 years.
The cop probably arrested him because there's two things. One, the cop is ideologically captured and agrees with them, maybe.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility he's sitting there thinking, if this guy keeps yelling, they are going to riot. They're going to smash windows. I better arrest him first.
Yeah, disturbing the peace.
huh?
Protecting
This
the peace.
isn't
Disturbing
where
the peace.
Canada?
No,
No,
Pennsylvania.
this is in
Oh,
Pennsylvania.
this is in Pennsylvania.
I was asking if it's in Canada because it's like there
because
have been
Seamus
other
doesn't want to
examples of
accept that his
preachers.
own country is doing this.
Can't believe it. No, I just know Canada's far worse, and there are like hate speech laws do prohibit reading certain parts of scripture. So
All right, where we at? Let's grab some more super chats. Sean DeClue says the bow tie was a mind control device. the bow tie was actually Tucker.
the left doesn't want you to know this, but look at my bow tie right now, and then it starts spinning.
They come out,
It's
they
like
twist
you
it
are
when-
feeling very sleepy, actually.
Actually. What do we got? Run DCG says Elon just retweeted Tucker's episode 1. Pour in the views.
Ooh,
Woo! Wow. And he got, when we pulled it up, within 2 hours, he had 9 million views on it.
let's see where he's at now.
Yo, he's going to be able to sell some hot advertisements on that.
Yes.
Like, imagine what it's going to be like episode
like
2.
Casbrew.
He's going to open up the show and be like, hello, America. And then it's going to immediately cut to, hey, everybody, thanks for checking out Tucker Carlson's new Twitter episode. My pillow is the greatest pillow.
Current,
It is.
Current views 20.8 million.
20.8 million.
Dude, that's gonna start costing like a Super Bowl ad at least. Wow. If not twice as much. It's 28 million.
No, it's the first one, so it's probably going to go down.
True.
But I imagine it'll be like 6-7 million per episode every
easy.
night.
And Elon got 7.7 of that million for him, according to these. Elon's retweet got 7.7 million.
So that's 28 million.
yeah, of his
28.5 total.
No. Of his 20, I think 7 million of them come from Elon. Do you know how it tracks? The original video has 20 million. Elon's retweet has 7 million. Does that mean that the original
I
had
think
13?
they're both separate. I think they're both separate tweets.
This might get my dad on Twitter. He was a big Tucker Carlson fan.
Yeah.
Tucker unleashed.
That's why Elon's retweeting, because he knows a lot of people are going to sign up now to watch Tucker's show.
Yeah.
Dude, Tucker's got good lighting.
You know what's actually really funny? My dad said something similar to me recently. He's like, well, now that Twitter is more free speech. I was like, is it because of Tucker?
Dude, Tucker, if you're listening, the right side of your video is a little dark, so you could brighten up your left cheek a little bit.
I do
looks awesome, dude.
I do think I saw someone tweet like excellent production quality, and I'm like, is that a dig? Because the production quality was like C+ at best. I'm not trying to rag on him. Tucker's fantastic. I'm just saying like, yo, bro, I will for free send someone out and help him set everything up to like get a pod, like high quality audio, whatever he needs. I mean, he certainly has the means to hire whoever, and I'm sure he's more than enough connections. His show should be way higher quality.
It's kind of funny when I started to get good at like making content and whatever. It baffled me how many shows that are so big have such low production quality.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, you guys are so big. How on earth do you have this low production?
I mean, to be
quality?
fair, like to a degree, we do too.
Really,
But-
your mics are nice. I was checking them
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but
it's
the
like
cast is horrible.
The Shure SM7B.
the new studio that we're building. We're getting a pro company to do like a super high end, crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be.
These lights could be better. They're
He's
good.
not gonna let me out
They
anymore.
wash a little bit, so you get kind of like the same color, the
Yeah.
whole brightness, the whole thing.
I was looking at your mics. I was like, I want those.
You got to
These
get.
are industry standard mics. They're not the best
SM7B,
mics.
they're
in the
actually
world.
not that expensive. Like
No,
it's
they're
a,
not.
it's like
300. They've been
like
around
around
since
300,
the
which is like a lot of money, but for an like industry standard like cameras are
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. Like for
We're
a mic
the-
to just be 300.
We're the
is-
one under it, but when I bought them, we weren't like we were a lot smaller. But it's like you want to replace all of the. Yeah, I don't know.
This
It's
is
a write-off.
the best. The best audio is so key in internet videos.
Yeah.
Oh
Audio.
yeah. Let's read some more. P. Gar says, "Ask Seamus if is a marriage outside of the church an actual marriage?
There's such thing as natural marriage. Yeah.
Natural
is
marriage?
that?
Yeah,
like when
because
two dogs
marriage
like hang
existed.
out?
No, like human beings got married before Christ elevated it to the level of a sacrament.
So just some public explanation, basically a public explanation of your mixing
Yeah.
of souls or something.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's about the public
it's not
acknowledgement,
well,
isn't it?
Yeah, I guess like the mixing of the souls. That's another question, and that I would have to like refresh myself more on like natural versus sacramental marriage. I know some of the differences, but I probably could not get into all of them competently right now. But yeah, people. I mean, this is the thing. The church, like marriage, obviously existed before the church existed. No Catholic denies that. No Christian denies that. There is such a thing as natural marriage.
Well, all right. What do we got here? Honest A-hole says, woman tells truth. News at 11. And then laughing emojis. Yep. Jason Hutchinson said, cheat codes in games caused this. If you're successful in life, you must have cheated. I think that's Marxism.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty Marxist.
The only way anyone can succeed is if they stole it from someone else.
Right. Disdain.
I'm like, what, dude?
disdain for the rich.
I made a birdhouse. Where'd you get the wood from? From my yard, where my tree is. Your yard. There's no answer you can give to them. It's always stolen.
Everything is stolen.
Dang
Our yard.
Lin Wang says, I can't wait for Seamus's potato coffee blend.
Is that what we're doing? We were gonna do a certain type, but then it didn't taste very good.
Honestly,
do we want to try?
We could do a sweet potato marshmallow. So it's like cinnamon, nutmeg, marshmallow flavored coffee. And so it's
Interesting.
not really
I'm
potato, but like, you know.
I'm
yam.
surprised you guys don't have the guests like try the coffee.
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
Well, you could if you want to.
Yeah, no, I was like, I wonder if it's any
But
good.
like, do people want to drink coffee late at night? Oh, it's so good.
addicts will. What do you mean?
Yeah.
There's a decaf blend, right?
So I was thinking
Not-
you
it's
could
coming.
put you
Yeah,
could
a
make
couple more
like
weeks.
even if you just had them test it, you
Sleepy
could make
Joe.
like a compilation for a commercial
That's
of everyone
right.
trying the coffee.
Sleepy Joe and
that's a good
Unwoke
idea.
are our decaf blends.
on the
I'm full of them.
But then what happens
room,
is when we
yes.
have a lefty on to debate, he takes a sip and goes, it was horrible. It was the worst coffee I've ever had.
No,
because
it's
you
really
guys,
good. We-
you guys get such big guests. It's like you might as well have them do marketing for it.
That's true.
Oh, yeah,
on
here,
the green
drink
room.
this.
We should have like a butler in a tuxedo who stands there next to every single person who's on the show holding a saucer
could be
that
Charles.
has Cass Brew coffee on it.
Yeah.
You know what we'll do? We'll just do like video appearance things, like you agree to appear on the show and let us use the footage, and then we'll put the bag behind them and say, take a sip. What do you think? And they're like, this is actually really good. And then we'll have an ad of like you're saying, like we'll have Kanye West being like, this is good coffee. And they won't even realize we're filming a commercial for
Yeah.
him.
And even if they don't like it, you could like work with them to make like a new
No, they'll
flavor
lie.
they like.
They'll-
Well, some people I'd imagine don't like coffee, right?
Yeah, but like no one's gonna be rude. They're all gonna be like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Like, got you.
You're gonna be like, it's all right. I guess.
I would actually only use those. It's like, oh, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Back to back to back, a bunch of those. You're like, eh.
It's actually insanely good. Appalachian Nights, I'm not even kidding. Normally what I do is I have a cup of coffee in the morning and I'll drink it slowly over the course of like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
This one is so good. I just end up,
I wish I could try it. You know what I mean?
well, we can make it. I don't know.
Look it. I'm
You're
here
allowed.
for it.
Yeah, you are
All right.
allowed to have coffee.
Yes.
All right. Sparky says, Seamus, what if the girl slept with Bill Lumbergh from the movie Office Space?
I don't remember that character from Office Space. Hold
He's
on,
the
Phil.
boss.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That'd be great. Actually, that wouldn't be great. What are they asking? What if the girls? Oh, is he saying like if you were
Is she
dating a girl?
redeemable?
Yeah, if you were about to find out on your wedding night, you found out.
I just got that. That's the whole plot of. Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
saw that movie kind of recently too. How
And then it turns
embarrassing.
out it was a different guy
I
named
haven't been
Lumberg.
drinking my cast brew, so
You slept with Lumberg? Like, would you flip your lid?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Classic, man. Yeah, I just saw Office Space for the first time a few months ago. I
Dude,
slept
Mike
on it.
Judge, one of his best.
He's brilliant.
God, that movie is so good.
Callan Shaw Indie Game says this has been such a refreshingly different kind of episode. It's like whatever podcast, except also the opposite. But you're just talking about sex to cover for the aliens. Tim has antennae under the beanie.
That's actually true. Well, I won't say anything about Under the Beanie.
It's like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z.
I love talking about relationships. I'm glad that that's your specialty because, man, it's one of the most important topics of our time.
NYBSFP says AI porn is the answer to everything else you're complaining about. It's going to put OnlyFans out of business for all of these naive girls.
That's not the
yeah.
answer to what we're complaining about.
It's
though.
not the answer,
That
but it will
exacerbates
end
all of
that
the
whole
problems. Yeah.
Right. Dude, it's gonna be nuts. Like, dudes are gonna put on the VR headset and be like, Wonder Woman and Sansa Stark and like a dog. And then just like the AI is going to make the weirdest, crazy nonsense. And a carrot comes in, but then like there's a rabbit riding the carrot.
And this is like basically to say this will solve our problems. That's like saying like once the most insanely customizable version of the lotus plant is introduced to everyone and they start munching on that all the time, everything's, it's going to be great. Yeah.
Lotus, that gets you high?
That's from the Odyssey.
Oh, Homer's The Odyssey?
Yeah. The they would eat the lotus and then it would kind of, it would.
It was aphrodisiac.
No, it sort of like made them kind of zombie-like.
Really?
Yeah, like they slept and didn't care about things.
Right. It made you like complacent to the world. Essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Were they talking about marijuana?
It could have been a metaphor for a lot of things, but I think porn definitely fits into
A
that.
water lily. That's the Nelumbo nucifera. The
Aubrey
Laxmi
Lovett
lotus.
says, no one seems to be addressing how porn addiction in very young men can often be the precipitating event in their sexlessness later on.
Yeah, I didn't see porn until I
That's
was
true.
19. That's so I can't really speak on it.
One of the things we talk about is that virginity is rising among men under 30, and it could be because of porn addiction. That they've become like they've watched this weird, crazy garbage on the internet.
Because I love watching porn as a scientist.
octopuses or
Like I
something.
like seeing, that's the position,
yeah.
that's the spot. I get that, but as a kid, I would have messed me up.
I think it's more because that like the most of men are invisible to women. I would say that's more why there's virginity rising, in my opinion.
It's because they don't lift.
No,
They got to start lifting.
I mean,
you know?
partially you're right, but it's like 80% of men women find ugly, not okay, not decent. They
Below
find them-
average, yeah.
No, they find them as ugly, unattractive.
Was ugly the term? I thought it was below average.
80% of them. I thought it was unattractive.
but that's
I would say
because
it's like the similar.
Women like guys who are attractive on the inside. And I'm not actually kidding. Like they want guys who are charismatic, confident, strong, capable. For a guy, he wants a symmetrical human body that looks like it can produce children. And for women, they want a guy who can beat a bear in a boxing match.
Or buy a company and then
Right.
hire a bunch
Well,
of
it's like,
people to
have
do
you ever
his bidding.
seen The Science of Sex?
I
we
haven't.
bring this up quite a bit. They have a bunch of women sit down at computers and they show them pictures of men and they say,
Right.
rate these men on a scale of 1 to 10. Then they do.
Right.
Then they go out into the street with all these pictures, and there's a guy who's like a tall, chiseled guy with like a strong jaw and wavy hair and a beard, and he was rated a 9 by all the women, like a 9.6. And so they go out into the street and ask random women, "How would you rate this guy?" And it's almost the exact same. They say, "Oh, he's a 9. Oh, he's an 8. Oh, he's a 10." But basically, it averages out to the same score they got in the lab. Then they add to the photos a bio. Where they show this guy who was a 9, they write down his age, his date of birth, where he lives, and they put his occupation as theater manager. The women then rate him as a 7. They took a guy who got rated a 4, who is short, fat, and ugly, but he's a software engineer who makes $500,000, and the women rated him a 7.
Wow.
So like from 4 to 7, from 9 to 7, if you had a
Right.
bad job. So like And that was the point they're making, that women care about what a guy does, not just what he looks like. Because men are shallow.
Yeah. And they care about status too. Status is a huge part of it.
No, I think that's like, there's definitely things you can do to improve, but I just think like it's like the women that 70% of us are overweight. 1 out of 4 of us has an STD. 1 out of 3 of us have had an abortion. The average body count is between 5 and 8. 80% of men is unattractive.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what? Like, it's kind of like men are like the audacity.
I just saw a stat that the average woman is 170 pounds in the United States.
170 pounds, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The average woman is 170?
Like, to think
In the
about,
US.
you can become a 1% man, right? Top 1% in like any category. And
Like
you
Seamus.
still, and you still, you still can't expect a virgin. Like, you can't, like, only 5% of women are
Statistically.
virgins. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't, like, you can become the upper, like, pinnacle of man. And if you say, like, oh, I want a virgin, it's like unlikely you'll get one.
Yeah. True.
Well, if you're the top 1% of
Everybody's
men, if you're the top 1% of men and 5% of women are virgins, then you'd think the math worked out where a top 1%er could.
I mean,
Seamus is saying he's going to have 5 wives.
For every one top 1% man, there's 5.
Would you ever do multiple wives?
No.
he's Catholic. We can't do that. You're Catholic,
But, like,
right?
yeah,
I'm
exactly. We're
Catholic.
not
I did
allowed to do
Catholic
that.
school.
Catholic Reformation or something.
No,
we
that would
don't-
just be called not being Catholic.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, here's one for Seamus. Dark Horse 989 says, Seamus, I want you to know that you've convinced this atheist to attend church with my wife and son. You keep doing you. Tim, the PA town is pronounced like the color red. Reading.
Reading, yeah.
There you go.
God bless you, man. Thank you. I'll be praying for you. Please pray for me. And if you're having, like, if you're going to church thinking, this is great, but I'm having trouble believing, I am an atheist, just tell God that. Ask him, please help me
Seamus-
believe. I'm an
Seamus, you-
atheist, help me believe.
You got to go on the Whatever podcast.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why don't you all go on?
Yeah.
That would
Oh
be
my
so-
gosh, just a group of us in a row on the Whatever podcast.
Come on, guys, do
my
it.
gosh, that would be hilarious.
Specifically, Seamus has substantially stronger opinions on marriage, family, dating, and all that stuff.
yeah.
I think you definitely have to.
Do you think so?
I mean, aside from Mary, have there been very many? Like, are there a lot of? Well, actually, no. There's a lot of Christian conservative people.
Come on in London.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You guys bring me out?
I'll get you. Yeah. I'll get you a
Yeah.
panel of women to speak to.
Oh my goodness, yeah, let's figure something out.
Yeah.
Let's figure something out.
I'm imagining what would actually be a very funny Freedom Tunes skit where it's like you have like a chalkboard and you're breaking down things and like teaching.
I'm
the
like,
women.
I have my glasses. I'm like, no, these are the birds and the bees.
We've done shows with a whiteboard. Yeah, if you got
Oh,
something
that's
to
fun.
say, I'll give you a whiteboard.
Oh, that
section.
sounds awesome.
You can
I
give
would
me some concepts.
happily use a
What
whiteboard.
would you, if you had a whiteboard presentation for 10 minutes, what would you make it on?
You want me to spoil it?
And there's
you want
like
me to spoil it
well,
right now?
just
We gotta know the
ti-
surprise.
No, just the title of it. What would you title it?
Love Dr. Seamus.
Like, obviously, don't give us all the goods, but, just a title.
I'm gonna need a second.
I'm sold.
I'm gonna need a sec.
I'm gonna leave it blank. I almost don't want to spoil it.
The women
it would
are gonna-
probably be something bombastic, like the sexual revolution and its consequences.
I'll get you a
something-
panel of
All right.
OnlyFans girls to
Oh,
talk to.
no.
We're gonna go to the uncensored members only show called "The Sexual Revolution and Its Consequences" coming up in just a few minutes.
now I can't do that.
Starring
Now we need
Seamus
something else.
Coughlin.
Training
So
wheels.
head over to
Where's my
Timcast. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because the uncensored members only show, we're going to talk more about family, dating, and stuff, but now it will be uncensored and not for the kids to hear. So you've been warned. Don't bring your kids around. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Pearl, do you want to shout anything out?
Oh, follow my YouTube channel, Just Pearly Things. Also follow my Twitter, Pearly Things with a Z. And guys, I'm back on TikTok. I've been banned 5 times.
We're
I know.
banned.
You're banned?
Yeah.
Just make another account. That's what I do. And Just Pearly Things, they gave me my original handle back. So Just Pearly Things on
Really?
TikTok.
They gave you your account, your handle back?
Yeah, it's been so long. My first ban was like a year ago. So I think they
Oh.
re-upped
Yeah, ours
the new
was too.
username. Yeah, so maybe your handle.
All right, we'll
if
go
no
for
one
it.
took it, yeah.
Yeah.
My name's Seamus Coughlin. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes where we make animated cartoons. We released a video today that I think you guys are going to love. We're also releasing one on Thursday about these race-swapped reboots and modern reboots in general that I think you guys are really going to like. It's pretty spicy. It's pretty fun. Go over there, check that out. I also have a podcast on Rumble called Shamer. Had a conversation with the one and only wonderful Jimmy Akin. It was fantastic. We talked about UFOs, the JFK assassination, other conspiracy theories. The man is an absolute encyclopedia. Finally, go to freedomtunes.com, help support my work by becoming a member, and you'll get an extra cartoon each week.
And that's Freedom Tunes with TOONS.
That's right, but I bought both domains because
Smart.
I couldn't get people to spell it right.
Very intelligent.
Yeah.
You have high intelligence.
Thank
Samus.
you. I appreciate that.
Pearl, also your Twitter you mentioned is Pearly Things with a Z.
Yeah.
And you have a divorce documentary that's coming out.
Yeah, it's probably fall. Like, it's going to come out when I finish it.
Do you have a working title or anything you want to talk about this early on?
I mean, I've interviewed like basically dads that have been wrecked in divorce. It's going to have lawyers in it, judges in it, like basically all the people that are involved in the divorce court system in the UK. And yeah, I don't have a name for it yet. I don't know. Let me know, chat. Help me think of one.
Yeah. And I think that's everything. If you're interested, I'll get you some coffee for the after show. If you want to get a little snippet.
Yeah, I want to
make a full
it.
pot? Do you have a full pot downstairs or something?
I probably could figure it out. Yeah. Or I'll make a few glasses. I don't know if we just have that the K cups.
The little pod thing.
Yeah. And I have Mr. Dupre out on my right.
Yes, I am Serge.com. I'm off Twitter right now because I just want to take a break, and I feel like it's good for people to do that because remember, it's not real life. But yeah, you can follow me anyways at Serge.com. And yeah, I'm excited to do this after show so we don't have to hold our words.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.